And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of King versus Ward. Step forward, please.
Supermarket cashier Kathy King is suing her ex-boyfriend, carpenter Ron Ward, for medical bills and lost wages due to his continual abuse.
According to what I read, you and the defendant had a long relationship, and you don't have any children together, but you had children that lived in the home with you.
Yes, correct.
While, according to you, this domestic violence situation was going on for a long time.
Yes, it has been.
And what you're suing Mr. Ward for is for a series of assaults, in one of which you say you were seriously injured.
Yes, I was.
Okay. Mr. Ward says that he neither drinks, which you allege, or has ever put his hands on you. Is that right, sir?
I've never, ever hit her.
You say the first incident that you're complaining of occurred in January. You want to tell me what happened?
Yes. Basically, there was a series of incidents with Mr. Ward's drinking, from the Long Beach Grand Prix where he was punching out people to his 17-year-old son trying to commit suicide. We also had his...
Could we stop with the drama? And what I want you to tell me is what happened with you in January. What assault you are complaining of?
Basically,
in January?
he had been drinking New Year's Eve, and we found him in the garage drinking a bottle of wine. We proceeded to bring him in. He went to bed.
And is that something that you are suing him for?
No, it's the injuries that I've heard from.
Well, tell me about it.
Okay,
Jen.
basically, he came in from the house. His son tried to put him to bed. He had roughed me house. I have went to the doctors. I have the doctor reports.
Okay, let me see it.
It's all stapled.
Says you went to the doctor on January 11th.
January 11th.
Just a second. 10 days after this alleged roughing up.
Basically, yes, I did. I wasn't sore till then.
Okay, next. Let me have next.
And then from there on...
Just a second. You didn't throw him out of the house?
Not at that time, no.
And you didn't leave?
No, I did not.
What's next?
Then on February 14th, he came home. He was upset about things that were happening at work. He started drinking. From there, he turned around and took a vase, threw it at me, hit me in the head. I then called the police that night. They came out. The officer was a new officer named... He said he wasn't going to proceed to go wake up Mr. Ward, but he'd be back the next day. He's seen the damage. I have pictures of the...
Okay, let me see the police report from February 14th, please.
Would you like the picture, too? It's the vase. When it hit my head, it hit the noyum and caused a tear in the noyum.
No, I just want to see.
Okay.
You don't have a picture of your head, do you?
No. There was a bump.
That is what I would have taken a picture of, not anything else.
I did ask to go to the doctors, Your Honor, from the cops that night, and they did not take me.
You're a big girl. If you were injured, then you go to the doctor. If you made the first step and called the police, you make the second step if you're injured and go to the doctor. Now, what happened after February 14th?
I told him that he couldn't come home.
Good.
He didn't come home for a while. Then I let him back in. He promised me that he would get himself out of debt. He was...
Okay, just a second. So you let him back in. When did you let him back in?
I let him back in probably 2 days later. He stayed in a hotel for 2 days.
So a couple of days later, he came home.
And he said that he would go and he would get help as far as treatment.
Good.
But he failed to take AA. He went into a study for relationships.
Ms. King, when did he go into treatment?
April.
So you took him back immediately. So you lived with him in January, when you got roughed up, according to you. February, when he threw a vase at you. March, and he went into treatment in April. But you lived with him all this time.
Unfortunately, yes, I had.
Ms. King, I'm asking you questions.
Yes.
I understand the drill when you claim that you've been battered, that sometimes it's difficult to extricate yourself. I understand all that. And you finally did, according to your complaint.
I did.
Good. So why are you here?
Because of the abuse, they have jeopardized my job. He told me that if I went and took him to court, he would make my child motherless.
What was he talking about if you took him to court? What court?
We went to small claims.
For what?
For damage of the house. I was being sued from the landlord that is in this courtroom. He's only suing me because they happen to be drinking buddies and friends.
Just a minute. So you've been to small claims court with regard to other things?
Correct, I have.
With regard to landlord and tenant dispute?
And abuse.
So far?
Yes.
And is there a judgment against you from landlord and tenant court?
It was a total of $4,000.
Okay. Now, what was the next case that you had?
I have terminated my daycare provider that is also in the courtroom. After Ron had vacated
That's this lady over here.
Yes.
And?
She needed a place to live. Her and her husband entered my home and agreed to pay me half of the rent and half of the bills to help out.
What did she sue you for?
A rental car, $2,600.
You owed her for a rental car because you rented a rental car on her credit card?
Correct. She won $642 and I won $26.88. Then she filed an appeal, and then right now I'm still fighting it because I don't think the judge knew that I had a case.
What was the ultimate decision?
She got $642.
What's next?
Basically, after February 14th in April, he completed the class. He was instructed to go through the psychiatry program through AA. He didn't want to go back. I told him, we're done.
So that's fine. That's in May. You told him you're done.
So then basically, he vacated the premises. He's left me with tons of bills. I'm being sued by the landlord, which
That's not part of his complaint. So he left in May.
He left in May.
So what are you doing here?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kathy King says she endured physical beatings at the hand of her ex-boyfriend, Ron Ward. Ron claims he's never laid a finger on her.
So what are you doing here? May, June, July, August, September,
I've been
October,
abused.
December.
He jeopardized my home.
Are you talking about prior to May?
Because of the injuries, I wasn't able to go to work. And because of that, in the Retail Clerks Union, you have to submit amount of hours in the grocery store to receive insurance.
Ms. King, let me explain something to you. This is not windfall day. If you wanted to sue somebody because they assaulted you and injured you, you sue them in January, you sue them in February, not a year and a half later. That's number one. It appears to me as if there has been an ongoing abuse of the judicial system and a lot of time wasted on this relationship that is now terminated. I certainly have absolutely no intention to becoming a party to this, what we call in French, michigas, or craziness. Pay careful attention. You claim to be a battered almost spouse. You had a 4-year relationship. You had no children together. There was no reason for you to stay together. If you were involved with, you don't have to say a word. If you were involved with a man who drinks, and you brought him into your home, and you have a child, that doesn't make you a very good parent. There was nothing tying you to this man. If he was a drinker, leave.
I left him. And,
no,
and,
you
and
left
the first 2 years.
Listen to me. If you left him, then we wouldn't be here. Then we wouldn't be here. Your problem now is you now have judgments against you for a substantial amount of money, and you're hoping to even the score. That is not going to happen. In January, when you claim he roughed you up, you chose to go to the doctor 11 days after this alleged struggle. You again allege that you were injured February 14th when he, you say in your complaint, smashed a vase over your head.
He did.
Now, when you testified, you said he threw a vase at you and it hit you in the head. That's different. However, you chose to take a photograph of a wall rather than your head. I don't understand that.
But I did.
To me, just listen to me. If I wanted to make a case, I would take a picture of my injury. I would not take a picture of a wall. Now, you may not take a picture of anything. That I could understand. But to take a picture of a wall rather than your head, that I don't understand. Now is not the time to exacerbate what you allege was an abusive situation that terminated a year ago.
I went into 6 months of counseling to get myself recovered from it.
That's wonderful. So what are you doing here? You say that
pain and
this man,
suffering. He has caused me a lot. I have been in
Madam,
court
you're a
system.
big girl. You're a big girl. You got yourself well. You claim he's an abuser.
He is.
You can't claim he's an abuser. Then if you're well and well rid of him, what are you doing here but for the fact that you're being sued by a lot of other people and at least 3 different judges found that you were mistaken?
No, the judge that gave me and Ron a wash said he awarded Ron $5,000 and me $5,000 and told me to take Ron to civil court and go for the whole thing because
Just a second, what judge awarded you $5,000 for what?
For the abuse, the damage to the property that I'm being sued for.
Just a second, you sued it. Just a second,
He
Miss
needs
King.
to be a man and stand up for his
Pay attention to me. Are you telling me that you sued him before another judge at another time for abuse?
No, I sued him for loss of wages and damages, and he felt that I needed to take it.
Loss of wages due to what?
Abuse.
Goodbye. You had your bite of the apple. This is over.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He's an abuser, and I should have just did what she said, get out of it.
They were all lies. It's just to cover her guilt.
Thank God he's gone.
I think if anybody needs treatment, she does.
I will seek restitution.
America, if you see her coming, run.
He needs to stand up and take responsibility of the damage he did to the residents.
She's just loving the court system, thinks she can win, and I hope today she's learned that she can't.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Bullock versus Haycox. Step forward, please.
Nurse Karen Bullock is suing her ex-boyfriend, Ralph Haycox, for having her falsely arrested and for the return of her belongings. Ralph says during an argument, Karen hit him with a Big Mac.
Miss Bullock, how long were you and the defendant in a relationship?
Ralph and I were in a relationship for 9 years.
According to your complaint, the defendant had you falsely arrested on domestic violence charges, and you were forced to spend some 30 days in jail. You want to be compensated for that. And in addition, you say that when he unceremoniously told you to get your stuff and get out, he kept some of your personal property, and you want it back, or the value of that property. That's what your lawsuit is about, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Haycox, is that your name?
Yes.
Says that you got arrested because you deserve to get arrested. You spent time in jail because you deserve to spend time in jail, and that he has none of your property. Is that right, sir?
Yes.
When was this incident that caused you to be arrested?
It was in March of this year. I served 30 days in jail.
Well, tell me about it. What happened?
Ralph and, like I said, Ralph and I have been together for 9 years. I walked in and caught him in the bed with another woman.
Look at me, please. Don't
The
look
cops
down.
was called, and I was arrested. I was told it was a violation of a restraining order, and I appeared in front of the judge.
Just a second. When you came home, something must have happened if the police were called.
Actually, nothing. I told him I said that I told him, I said, oh, I done caught you in a lie. You told me it was over between him and his woman. Actually, him and I had problems.
Just a second. He called the police. You want to tell me, sir, what happened when she caught you?
I was home alone. There was no one there with me, and she came in with an attitude about
That's
something.
Not true.
And
That's not true.
we started having a debate, and the next thing I know, she had a Big Mac, and she took and slammed it in my face.
A Big Mac
Hamburger.
sandwich?
Yes.
That's not true.
Okay.
And instead of going off and hitting her, I called the police, and she left and went to one of my neighbor's house to try to hide, but they put a warrant out for her, and about a week later they came to the house and picked her up.
Has there been incidents of violence between the two of you before?
Yes.
Tell me when.
Oh, the relationship was just full of violence and nonsense. We'd broken up maybe a half a dozen times before, and it's just time to stay away from each other. That's what I wanted her to do.
Okay. Now, what I read in the complaint was, Miss Bullock, it appears to me that there was a restraining order that was in existence at the time Mr. Haycox called the police and had you arrested for this hamburger incident. When was that restraining order issued?
Had to be a few years ago, but I didn't know that it was still in effect. To my knowledge,
But it was still in effect.
Evidently, it was.
So he had a protective order.
Right.
So you served 30 days for violating that protective order.
That's what I found out it was.
Now, did you plead guilty to violating the protective order?
Yes, I did. Yes.
Do you have any of the criminal court papers, please?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to take a look at them. Let's... I don't think you understand. Thanks.
Oh, I have something else here, too.
Well, this was issued in February, and this protective order says that you are to refrain from doing anything to him and to refrain from entering the family dwelling.
Mm-hmm.
You pled guilty? You pled guilty to violating the restraining order?
That's what they got me on, for violating the restraining order.
You pled guilty and served 30 days.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Then you can't sue him for falsely having you arrested.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes.
Good. Now, What personal property do you say you still have in the defendant's house?
I have receipts and stuff, documented stuff that I had.
Like what? Give me an example.
A television. I have antiques in there, lamps, dishes, blow dryer, curling iron, mirror, handmade mirror.
Go ahead, sir. Do you have any of her stuff?
Yes, some of those things are there, but I've called her and tried to make arrangements with her so she could come and pick up her property.
Okay.
And she said, well, I'm going to settle it in court and don't call here anymore.
Fine.
So,
This is what you ought to do. I want you to pack up her property. Pack it up neatly. Don't damage anything because you want this lady to leave you alone. Correct? What relative do you have? You live in New Britain, Connecticut?
I have a brother.
Do you get along with her brother?
yeah.
Good. 5 days from today, your brother, in the company of a police officer, will go to the house. He will give your brother your property. Do you understand? He says he has some of your property, and he doesn't look like a nut, so that he doesn't want you to come around anymore. So whatever you have that belongs to her, or you think even marginally belongs to her, be smart. Pack up, get ready for her brother to pick up. Do you understand?
Yes.
Perfect. 5 days. That's all. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She'd stay out all night, stay out 2-3 days sometimes. She'd come home. I wouldn't let her in. I wouldn't let her in. And there's no way for a person to live.
I trusted him. You know, I was in love with him.
I've never trusted another person like that again, I'll tell you.
I fell for what he had to tell me. It was my stupidity, so.
I'm wishing bad luck on her. I just wanted her to leave me alone.
Fireman Christopher Safford is suing his daughter's maternal grandmother, homemaker Linda Daniels, for the return of child support. Christopher claims she was overpaid.
Order. All rise. This is case number 164 on the calendar in the matter of Safford versus Daniels.
Thank you.
Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Mr. Safford, the defendant is your child's maternal grandmother.
Yes, ma'am.
And your lawsuit claims that she had had custody of this child for a while, and then you were ultimately awarded custody of your daughter?
Yes.
And you claim an overpayment of child support.
Correct.
Ms. Daniels says that while you may have had physical custody of the child during that period, she actually had legal custody by a court order. Is that right?
Yes.
And
that's
therefore
right.
she is entitled to the support. Is that your defense?
That's my defense.
Your complaint was rather sketchy, Mr. Stafford, but from what I gather, you had a relationship with the defendant's daughter. Is this your daughter?
Yes, ma'am.
And the child was born, and you claim that you were told that you were not the child's father. Is that right?
That's correct.
Who told you you were not the child's father?
The social worker at the clinic there, the hospital where she was born.
When were you advised you were not the child's father?
The date of birth, I was present.
Is your name listed on the birth certificate?
No, it isn't.
Is someone else's name listed on the birth certificate?
Yes. After I had hired a lawyer, found out that the defendant's daughter was married. She never told me.
So there is another man's name as the father of the child on the birth certificate?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor,
Yes.
he's not telling the truth. He knew my daughter was married. We're cousin. And he didn't want it.
Okay. Did you advise the plaintiff that he may not have been the father of this child?
No, he was living with her when she got pregnant.
That doesn't necessarily mean anything.
No, but he knew he was the father. My daughter told him. When he was present at birth, my daughter stated to him to sign the birth certificate.
Ma'am, that's
He
not
wouldn't
true.
put his name on it.
That's
Just a
not
minute.
true.
You weren't there.
She
No, I
wasn't
wasn't,
there.
but
You
my
weren't
daughter
there.
is here. She
You
can
weren't
tell
there.
She refused to be there. She didn't want nothing to do with her daughter at the time when she
What
was giving
happened
birth.
when the baby
That's
was
not
born, sir?
true.
Because this is important.
What happened when Vendela was born was that she was placed in a foster home.
No, at the time of her birth.
Yes.
You were in the hospital when she was born.
Yes.
So at that point, you thought you were the child's father.
Yes. I was under the impression that we both were going to take a paternity test. The social worker came back and told me that Deirdre stated that I'm not the father of Vendela. And she said that the father's been named. I said, well, that's...
Don't speak because you weren't there.
My daughter
Don't
was.
speak because you weren't there. And your daughter was on drugs at the time.
No, she wasn't.
This child was born with traces of cocaine in her system?
Negative.
So why was the child placed in foster care?
Because of her past history, which I had no idea to the extent that it is.
You mean past drug history?
Yes.
And that's why the child was removed?
Correct.
You can stand up with your mother if you want to. At what point, sir, were you advised that you were the father of this child?
We took a genetic marker and paternity test.
When?
In 99 of March.
When was your child born?
1/28/98.
Between January 28th of 1998 and March of 1999, had you seen this child?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
I didn't have no contact with the mother or the family after being told I wasn't the father.
And it was who that told you you were? Was it the social worker or was it the mother of the child?
The grandmother came into the picture probably 9 months later, subpoenaed me to court for paternity.
In 1998, you were told that someone else's name had been placed on the birth certificate.
Yes, ma'am.
Whose name was on the birth certificate?
It's my husband, which was separated. But he and I were engaged, and I was in the process of getting divorced.
There was no
Just a
engagement.
second.
There was no ring involved. There
Just
was
a
none of
second.
that.
Somebody else's name was placed on the birth certificate at the time the child was born.
Because I was still married, and they have to do that in the state of Massachusetts.
No, she lied.
1998, the defendant summoned you to court. Is that right?
It was fall of 98.
Took the paternity test in March of 99, and the results of that test established that you were the child's father.
Yes, ma'am.
When did you initiate custody proceedings?
It was August 4th of 99 that the adjudication was supposed to have been heard. For some reason, I have no idea, it went on for, I believe, 7 months until I was adjudicated. I have the document here that was signed by both myself, the lawyer, and the defendant, the grandmother, who was guaranteed relative of Vendel at the time.
Okay, at the time, the child was ultimately taken out of foster care and placed in the care of her grandmother.
Correct.
You have other children of this daughter, don't you?
Yes, ma'am.
How many other children?
2, but I only have 1 now.
Why, she taking one back?
No, she went to live with the father.
Did the grandmother consent to your having custody of the child?
There was a court hearing. She had no say in it because I was not mentally impaired or no drugs or anything like that.
How's your daughter doing now?
She's doing fine. I'm happy that I have her and that she's out of the environment that she's in. She's doing a lot better than she was.
Okay, when did you take physical custody of the child?
That was March 9th of 2000.
And how much child support were you paying that time?
It was $200 a week.
And when you were ultimately called to court, that was in 99, and they made a paternity order. They made a retroactive order so that you had to pay several $1,000s to the defendant.
Correct.
And you did, in fact, pay that.
Yes, that was satisfied.
How many weeks after you obtained custody of the child did the money continue to come out of your check?
Your Honor, why you look for that? Could I tell you?
Just a minute. Wait a second. I'll get to your side. Okay. I promise you.
A little over a month and a half.
So if you had custody for 7 weeks, that comes to $1,400. Okay, now it's up to you, Miss Daniels. Talk to me.
Okay, back referring to when he said he was supposed to take custody in 1999, it was because he didn't want to have nothing to do with her. We went to court and we signed this paper, and he was supposed to take custody. He made no attempt to get a place to put her, no attempt to help pay for her living expense. He gave me nothing. And then he tell you that he don't know why. It's because he didn't want nothing to do with the baby. That's why he didn't take it in 1999. And I have this paper proving he signed it, and he's supposed to take custody of it. But he didn't because he didn't want to have nothing to do with her.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He pretended to be my friend and cared about me, and then we fell in love. He wanted a child. Then I had a drug relapse. I came to him and told him. He left me pregnant.
And later today,
You say he gave you the ring on May 8th. He says he gave it to you on April 1st. And you say that you hadn't seen the ring before.
Yes.
Baloney!
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Christopher Safford says his daughter's maternal grandmother, Linda Daniels, owes for the return of child support.
Listen, your daughter created this problem.
Yes.
And I'm going to explain how your daughter created this problem. She was married to somebody else at the time she gave birth to this child.
True.
Which means, according to her, they must put his name on the birth certificate,
True.
that her husband. That's not always true. Doesn't have to put it down if she says he's not the father. He could be legally compelled to support the child until somebody else gets on the hook for support. However, she created this problem because
Not by
she
herself,
cannot,
Your
well,
Honor.
just pay attention. If this child went on welfare wouldn't know who to sue for the support. Do you sue the father who's on the birth certificate, or do you sue this man who hasn't been adjudicated the father? I mean, he's had the child now for a considerable period of time. The court would not have given him the child if he was unfit to have the
The
child.
court didn't give him the child at the time he took him.
Ma'am.
We gave her.
Ma'am,
after that.
Ma'am, if I may?
No, you
Right.
don't have your
I need
attorneys
to
for
say
me.
something.
She talking to me now.
Go ahead.
Can I speak?
Go ahead.
This situation, this situation is my fault. But with my kids, the reason my kids are there with them, it's because I put them there. I've maintained a job and security, but I was not stable enough. And with him, he came to my family. We're cousins. He told my mom he was going to help me. He pretended to be my friend and cared about me, and then we fell in love, and he knew I was married, and then we got engaged. My mom had problems. She told him to stay away from me. He wanted a child. Then I had a drug relapse because I got clean. I had a drug relapse. I came to him and told him. He left me pregnant. I put myself in the hospital. That's why my baby wasn't born with
like
drugs
this is
in
a
her
joke.
system.
It's not true.
I put
It's
my
true.
baby in the hospital so she
Because
wouldn't be clean.
my
and
daughter-
I put my kids with my mom.
My
in
daughter
foster
suffered
care,
from bipolar. I told Chris this.
and they took me off
She
all
had a
medication.
drug problem. I told
And
Chris
that's
that
how I
too.
relapsed.
But he was working with social people. He said the people that had drug problems that he could help her.
I don't-
He
I
helped
never
her all
worked
right.
with people with
yes,
drug
you
problems.
did.
Well, listen,
That's what you
how do you know
told
what
me.
I've done for
And
work?
this day-
You told me
listen,
that.
Stop talking to each other. Listen to me. Listen to me. If he had physical custody of this child for a period of 7 weeks, you had no right to receive the support for the
He
child.
took her.
Whether you had, I don't care whether he took her or not. The court left her with him. She's
No,
not.
He had custody. It was a kidnapping
I
charge.
don't care.
He took her.
It wasn't no
I
kidnapping.
don't care. The money, listen to me, the money is supposed to go for the support of the child. If he's giving her money, that means he has less money to support the child with. It's not her money, it's the child's money.
I didn't take it for myself.
That was money owed to
Listen.
her.
Ma'am,
Your
can I
Honor,
say
That
No,
something?
no, 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 no,
She's
no, no.
a kept baby in the state of
No, no,
Massachusetts.
no, no, listen
you
to me.
cannot get welfare with a family kept baby.
Listen to me
And he
very
owed her.
carefully. For the first several months of this child's life, the child was in foster care.
Yes.
2 years she had her with no money.
She didn't
Just a
have it for
minute.
2 years.
Then
Yes, I
there
did.
was a lump sum paid. Both parties acknowledged that there was a lump sum paid at
Yes.
the time when he was finally adjudicated the father.
Yes.
It should have went to the
Several-
state.
No, it shouldn't have.
Several $1,000s. What I'm saying to you is this money, while the child was in his custody, that you got from his check, should have taken that money and said, here, make sure the baby has this money, because I'm not supposed to have it. It's not supposed to help defray my costs, my rent, my gas, it's supposed to go for the baby. So you owe him $1,400 and pay him. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I'm upset because my mom,
He is
every
a
cent
liar.
my mom got, she took care of
Yes.
my kids.
Clearly, all the allegations are not true.
He wouldn't even be a man and take his daughter when we
No,
called
he
and
didn't.
told him to please come get her.
As far as me taking care of my daughter, I've been doing that from day one since she gave her up.
He's put my mom through this, and no one's getting hurt but I
Just
daughter.
forget it.
It was clearly money motivated.
I'm not hurt. He's hurting the baby, not me.
It's clearly a mother taking control of her own daughter's life.
He left me pregnant with my baby.
And I told you to leave him alone.
People like this need to be exposed.
Plus, he's cousin. You don't mess with your cousin.
When people like this come into court and clog the system up using our tax dollars and make a mockery out of it, that shouldn't be done.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Mason versus DeRose. Step forward, please.
17-year-old pharmacy technician Mark Mason is suing former schoolmate, 18-year-old Michael DeRose, for selling him phony tickets to an Aerosmith concert.
Mr. Mason, it is your claim that the defendant sold you some tickets. They were concert tickets, but they were tickets that permitted you to go backstage.
That's correct, Your Honor.
And you paid how much for those tickets?
The total ticket cost for 4 tickets was $220.
And according to you, Mr. Mason, when you got to the concert, you couldn't go backstage with those tickets. Somebody told you that they were bogus. Is that
Yes,
right?
that's correct.
Mr. DeRose says he never sold you real backstage tickets. They were laminated memorabilia tickets,
Novelties, yes.
novelties. And he told you that.
Yes, and they were not tickets, Your Honor.
They were just backstage passes.
They were laminated passes, yes.
So these passes that he sold you did not enable you to go into the concert. Is that right?
Well, when we talked to Michael about it, he informed us that, first of all, he did tell us that they were real tickets.
Just a second.
Sure.
Would you answer my question?
I'm sorry.
Were these just to permit you to go backstage, or did they permit you to get into the concert as well?
They were all access passes, so you're allowed to go anywhere on the grounds, including into the concert.
Okay. For 4 people, $220.
Yes.
Now, what concert was this?
It was an Aerosmith concert that was to take place at the Connecticut Meadow Centers in Hartford on September 5th.
And how did you know the defendant?
I went to school with him last year. I had a couple classes with him. And
How did you know he was selling these tickets?
he had sold them previously to people, and it was just sort of known that he said he had a connection at the Meadows Theater, and he could get backstage passes to concerts.
Do you have those tickets with you?
No, when we got to the concert grounds, all 4 tickets were confiscated at the gate.
Did you get to see the concert at all?
No, we were escorted off the grounds.
Now, if $220 in cash?
Yes.
You don't deny that you got $220 in cash?
Oh, yes, I do deny that. I actually
How
have
much did you
receipts
get?
here, if you'd like to.
How much did you get?
I got around $40 at the most. They were $5 each ticket without the name on it, and $7 with, plus the shipping and handling.
Let me hear you, sir.
When we originally approached him, he said that the tickets were $50 each without names on them and $60 each with names, and he did not charge us shipping and handling.
You got them from him directly, hand to hand?
Yes, that's correct. He delivered them to my place of employment, which is a pharmacy that I work at with Lisa over there.
Mr. DeRose, I believe him. So let's move on from there.
Your Honor,
Okay?
this is-
I believe him.
I have documents here.
Oh, let me see.
Okay.
Maybe I'm wrong. Let me see what documents you have, sir.
There you go. Marcus and I were both in Cisco Laboratories, and
Just a minute.
okay. The top copy is the receipts that I paid for through PayPal.
Just a minute.
Okay.
I wish I understood this PayPal. Can you explain it to me, Bird?
PayPal is basically it's just an online ordering system. You drop money in your bank account or credit card, and it goes directly right through there to the person's email, and it gets dropped into their bank account right away. So
What
it's
he said.
instantaneous.
What he said.
There you go.
What he said. Whatever happened to you have a checkbook in a little...
Your Honor, that takes time. This is instantaneous. Sorry.
happened to those checkbooks? You know, you write a check and then you write something on top and you say check number 1, 2, 3, 4.
It's basically an online
Right.
check. Sorry.
We're talking here.
I don't want to interrupt.
Is that what you use? Those checks thing?
Yeah, I still use checks for the
Yeah,
most
I
part.
still use checks. Would you show this to Mr. Mason, please? Because I don't understand it, but maybe he does. Now I want you to take a look at that, Mr. Mason.
All
That's
that
a
is
thing.
the-
Shh.
Sorry, Your Honor.
That's a thing from PayPal. What do you have to say about that?
All that is the way.
I didn't.
Okay.
I am actually not involved in PayPal, so I couldn't tell you what this is. I mean, he may have gotten the tickets through this, but...
But that's not your. You
that
didn't
is
have
not
anything to
my
do with
receipt,
that.
No.
That's not your receipt.
No.
You don't know anything about that.
Nope.
You don't use PayPal.
No.
Your Honor, that's how I purchased the tickets.
I don't care. You purchased the tickets. Who
Well,
cares about how you purchased the
That's
tickets?
how he got them.
What difference does it make how you purchased the tickets? No, the price are on there where you paid for the tickets,
Yes.
not what you charged him for the tickets.
Well, also you have the eBay listing for the passes.
What difference does that make?
On there it says these items are novelties. And
What?
Mark,
Let me ask you, what difference does that make?
Your Honor, as I was stating before, Marcus and I were in the same classroom, and we were always on the computer playing video games.
Oh, get lost. Listen to me. He says he paid $220 for the tickets, and I believe him. I still believe him after you show me this stuff, that he paid $220 for the tickets. They were 4 tickets. He was supposed to go to a concert. He got to the concert. They confiscated his 4 tickets because they said they were bogus.
No, they were passes. They were not tickets. That was clearly stated, and everyone that Marcus talked to that actually got into backstage concerts with them knew that they needed tickets.
I don't care what anybody else knows.
He never
Old
had
Marcus
tickets.
over here, maybe he's not as smart as all your other friends. When he pays
Mark's very
$220
smart, actually.
for 4 tickets, he thinks that he's going to at least get to hear a song. Right? And he got to hear nothing.
Your Honor,
Judgment
he
for the
never-
plaintiff
he
in the
never
amount of
purchased
$220. Goodbye.
Parties are
Yeah, goodbye.
excused. You may step out.
Numerous times we asked the defendant if the tickets were real and if we would be allowed into the concert grounds, and he did tell us numerous times that indeed we would.
For $60, that's a little little low.
He may have purchased them through eBay or PayPal, but he told us that he had a connection at the Meadows that was getting the tickets for us.
If Marcus actually had tickets, like he originally stated, maybe it could have been a whole different situation.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Tyler versus Webb. Step forward, please.
Tax preparer Peggy Tyler is suing her former employer, business owner Tom Webb, for past due wages and sexual harassment.
Ms. Tyler, according to your complaint, you worked for the defendant in January of 2000
Till April 15th of 2002, I'm sorry.
April of 2002, mid-April.
Right.
And you claim that he owes you some money. You say he owes you money for some wages that he didn't pay you for, that 2 weeks' worth, that he owes you some commission.
Yes, ma'am.
That he sexually harassed you, which is the reason he's not going to pay you because you did not respond to his advances. And third and finally, that he had promised to pay your son some money for doing some odd jobs for him.
It was one, Your Honor. They took a balloon down the whole season.
You'll explain that to me because I have no idea what kind of work you were doing for Mr. Webb because it doesn't say in the complaint what kind of work you were doing and what kind of place he has. Mr. Webb says there was some money outstanding, according to him, but he said you broke your agreement with him. The agreement was that you would work for him through April 15th. And you left prior to that date, so he's not paying you a dime.
No, I didn't leave prior to that date.
That's your defense. Is that right, sir?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He would look down our blouses and make comments about our breasts.
And the other thing you say is your boobs would make nice pillows.
We're supposed to be seen and not heard.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Peggy Taylor says former employer Tom Webb sexually harassed her when he called her a hot biker mama. Peggy says when she rebuffed his advances, he refused to pay her.
What kind of business do you have, Mr. Webb?
Tax preparation and filing, Your Honor.
Ms. Tyler, when did you start to work for the defendant?
I actually started to work for him December the 23rd.
In what capacity?
I was a tax preparer, Your Honor.
And what was the salary that you were supposed to receive?
$7.50 an hour.
Is that correct so far?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, what about the commission part of it?
When we got hired, everybody that got hired, we signed a paper and agreed to that if we quit or was fired before April the 15th, we would not get our commission. Which,
I don't understand what the commission was. Is that a bonus?
The commission, yes, ma'am, it's like a bonus. It's on every tax return that I did. I get so much commission on that.
Let me see the contract that you signed.
It's not a contract, Your Honor. This is the people that I did from January, all of us in the...
Can I see the contract that you signed? Okay. So according to this, you started to work for him on January 1st, 2002. And you worked for him until what date, Ms. Tyler?
April the 15th at 9 p.m.
And how much are you owed in salary?
It's about $600.
Did you pay her salary for the last 2 weeks she worked for you?
The last pay period was actually about 8 days, and she did not receive that paycheck for those last 8 days, which
Why
would
not?
have been a gross of about $310, net of about $270. Ms. Tyler owed me $400.
For what?
From a loan I made to her February 1st. I'm not in the habit of loaning money to my employees, but she had a distinct need, a child who was very ill, who needed medicine, and if she didn't have that medicine, the child would either get very ill.
Excuse me. Did you borrow money from him?
Yes, I did.
How much?
It was $400.
Did you pay him back?
No, I did not. At the end of the tax season, when we went to the party, I had $200 in cash, Your Honor, and tried to give him that and ask him to bring the checks up there, and I was going to sign my other check over to him, which would have been well over the $400, but he did not want that. He asked me and my son to leave the commission party.
Just a second. When do you claim she left your employ, sir?
The last day that we have on record that she worked was April 13th. I have the daily time records from the last 2 days of the year, the 14th and 15th, and she did not work on those.
Let me see.
On the 15th, when I worked, Your Honor, Charlie is the one I called to the home office and asked him to clock me in.
Well, was that your general practice? To have
Yes,
somebody
ma'am.
else clock you in?
Yeah, we would either clock in on the computer and then we would call the home office and tell them what time we were in. And I worked from 9 a.m. or 9:30 that morning until 9 p.m. that night. That's when I turned my key over to B.J. Wade.
What key are you talking about?
To the office. All the employees had keys because on Sundays I worked by myself and I had to open the office.
Well, BJ, that's you. B.J. Wade, is that you?
Yes.
Step up, please. You were in the office on that date, is that right?
Yes.
On the 14th?
Yes.
Was the plaintiff there on that day?
Yes, she was.
Are you still working there?
No, I'm not.
How long did you work there?
The whole tax season.
Did you get
January
paid?
till April 15th.
Did you get paid?
Yes.
You know a Michelle?
Yes.
Was Michelle there on the 14th?
No.
Yes, she was. Time in 5, time out 9. She was there.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Peggy Tyler says former boss Tom Webb refuses to pay her because she refused his sexual advances.
How many people were you responsible for, madam?
6.
Of the 6 people that you were responsible for, how many worked until the 15th?
All of them but one.
Who was that?
Nancy.
So then the 5 people that you were responsible for get their commissions?
Yes.
Could you explain to me why she did not?
Because she owed the money, which she did agree to pay that back at the commission party, and he would not do it the way that she offered to do it.
Okay. Have a seat. Now, Ms. Tyler, let's address this theory that you have that the reason he's not paying you, according to your complaint, is that you did not respond to his sexual advances. You want to tell me about that?
He would look down our blouses and make comments about our breasts.
Tell me not our. Tell me what he said to you.
He called me a hot mama biker because I
Okay,
had...
stop. When did he call you a hot mama biker?
It was in February.
Okay. Now, after February, and was the other comment that he made to you something about your breasts made at approximately the same time?
It was after that.
In what month?
Around the end of February, maybe the first week in March.
So that both remarks were made to you, being a hot biker mama, and the other thing you say is your boobs would make nice pillows.
Mm-hmm.
You attribute that to the defendant. Were made to you either in February or at the latest the first week in March. Is that right? Is that right?
Yes.
And you got paid the entire month of February. Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
And you got paid the entire month of March. Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
And when did you ask for this loan?
I believe it was around the end of February.
So none of the comments that he made to you so appalled you that you would be reluctant to ask him for a loan. Is that right?
Right.
So why let us assume that it's true for the moment, which I don't necessarily believe, sir. I want you to understand that. Why would you say that he was withholding your money because of this sexual harassment?
Because he didn't honestly believe that I would do anything about it. Because I'm not the only one that he cheated out of commission money, and years before that he did people ladies the same way, which he doesn't believe women can hold any kind of an office anywhere because they're not smart enough. We're supposed to be seen and not heard. But, Your Honor, honestly, if it hadn't been for all of us women, he wouldn't have had offices.
Miss Tyler, if you didn't like Mr. Webb as an employer, don't go to work for him. You owe him $400. Now, clearly, he owes you some money, too. He owes you for 8 days, which, according to him, comes to what in gross pay, sir?
About $310.
Mr. Webb, I want you to figure out, sir, how much she earned in commissions. I assume that you've done that already.
Yes, ma'am.
And what would that amount be?
She did 133 tax returns, net to the company of about $14,000, which would have been $700 gross as a commission.
So altogether, we're talking about $1,010. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
From which we deduct $400. Now, it's really too bad that it ended this way. You being a nice person to make some loans. I think Ms. Tyler's accusations of sexual harassment are off the wall. If, in fact, you did say something stupid like that, I'll just chalk it up to stupidity. First of all, your sexual harassment is dismissed because you're suing him for $2,500. I want you to get that figure right out of your mind. Now, tell me about the deal with your sons.
They were to take the balloon down. BJ's husband put it up. They took it down.
How often did they take down this balloon?
Every night. It was 7 nights a week.
Really?
Yes.
And what was the agreement with regard to taking down the balloon?
He was going to pay them $100 each.
Do you have any agreement with the boys, sir?
I didn't know the boys existed until this was filed.
Really?
Correct.
Okay. Who do you claim he made the agreement with?
He made the agreement with my older son. He talked to him.
Come, step up. Tell me your name.
Jesse Tyler.
Tell me when you first met Mr. Webb.
I never met him before. I talked to him on the phone.
Tell me about how it came to pass that you spoke to Mr. Webb on the phone.
My mom told me that he wanted somebody to take the balloon down, and she told him that we could do it.
Tell me what you had to do.
It was out in front of the building, and we had to unplug it and let the air out of it and put it in the case and bring it in the building.
Mr. Webb, who did you think took the balloon down?
I was paying B.J. Wade and her husband, who took her to work and picked her up in the evening to do that.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Miss Wade, stand up. Yes. Were you supposed to put the balloon out and take it up? You were the office manager.
My husband put it up every morning at 9
o'clock. Were you
o'clock.
supposed to take it down?
No.
How much was he paid?
It was like $8 extra on my check a week to take it down. And I don't have the stubs with me. I didn't bring them.
Interesting. How did you know that it was this gentleman that you spoke to on the phone?
She told me, my mom told me.
Tell me how that came about.
We talked to him.
Tell me about that you talked to him. So far, I believe that your mother said to you, he wants you to take the balloon down, and he'll pay you for it, and he'll give you $100. I want you to tell me, and I want you to make sure you tell me the truth, because otherwise, you know, I'm unpleasant. You'll always trip yourself up if you lie. Do you know that?
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever speak to him on the phone?
Yes.
Tell me when, and tell me how that phone call came about.
It was in the beginning of January when the tax season started.
Go ahead.
And she answered the phone and told me that it was him, and I talked to him about it.
So you got on the phone, and what did you say?
I said that, what did you want me to talk about? You know, like that, you know.
No, don't buy it.
What?
Don't buy it. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced it wasn't her husband. I have to be satisfied that he had a contract with him. That doesn't mean...
Well, they didn't put nothing in writing. No.
Can't hire a 10-year-old. Did your husband also pick you up from work?
Yes, but
yes, he did.
I did not work till
Okay, judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $610, and that is for the wages and the commission that I believe you owe her, sir. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
No sexual harassment and no balloon. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
You got lucky.
He knows he owes my boys. He knows BJ's husband put the balloon up, but he also knows my boys took it down every night.
She wanted something that she felt was due to her that I was quite sure was not due to her.
They're just kids. They're supposed to trust and believe in grown-ups' word, and this is what happened.
8 years I've been doing this. This is the first time anybody's ever accused me of anything.
He's pushed women around his whole life, does his wife, and still does women, and that's why he's never going to get anywhere.
Child beauty pageant director Gladys Sirakowski is suing homemaker Victoria Doe for unpaid pageant fees. Victoria says the contest was rigged.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. Yeah, on the case number 336 on the calendar in the matter of Sirakowski versus Doe. You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated, ma'am. Have a seat, please.
Ms. Sirakowski, you were running some sort of a baby contest or baby pageant.
Yes.
And the defendant entered her baby. She wrote out a check. Her baby entered the contest. Her baby didn't win. She stopped payment on the check. You want your money, right?
Yes, I do.
The defendant says that the contest was rigged, so she stopped payment on the check. Tell me about this pageant.
All right, Your Honor, this whole case is about this lady who has a major...
Shh. Pay attention to my question. Then we'll get along just fine. I said, tell me about the pageant. I'll figure out what this lady has or has not.
All right. It is a national pageant system. We did have a baby contest in it. Her baby did participate.
Where is this pageant or contest held?
It was held in Springfield, Illinois.
How many babies were entered?
There were 9 babies all told, 5 in her age division.
So tell me how it works. You advertised and you said there's going to be a baby contest. These are the age categories. And it says that you have to send in a fee for the contest?
Yes, you do.
Okay, and how much is that fee?
The deposit was $150. She pays the remainder of any fees when she reaches the pageant.
Now, what happens if they win this contest in Springfield?
If they win the contest, they win money.
How much?
She could have won a $500 bond. Actually, she could have won a $2,000 bond as an overall winner.
Overall winner
of one baby of the 2 age divisions.
Okay, so she sent in her $150.
Yes.
Correct?
Correct.
And then you travel to Springfield.
Correct.
And how much then does she have to pay once she gets to Springfield?
Depending on the events that she entered would decide how much more that she did owe.
What do you mean? I thought she just entered one baby contest.
There's several different categories.
Like what?
Photogenic, there is playwear, there is sleepwear, there are the prettiest eyes, hair, fashion.
And what do you win if you win the prettiest pajamas?
You can win a plaque, a laser engraved plaque.
A plaque?
Yes.
And each time she enters one of these little contests for the baby who looks nicest in their pajamas, there's an additional fee. Is that what you're telling me?
There is a fee for each thing that you do, yes, ma'am.
Sounds like a good business to me. And how many babies, for instance, entered in that contest if you have there the best looking baby in pajamas?
They all entered.
All 9 of them?
Yes.
And how much was the cost of each one of them entering that?
Well, it was $35 per category for that.
And how many of these little categories, eyes, pajamas, playwear, how many of those are there?
There are 5 for the babies.
And for that they get a plaque or a certificate if they win each
They
one?
could get a trophy.
Or a trophy.
The people who win money, crowns, and banners, and the big trophies are the queens.
I'm just talking about the things other than cash. So this is for you a business?
Absolutely, it's a business.
We're not talking about the baby who wins this contest gets to do some sort of a pilot for a movie. This is just pure ego on the part of parents. Is that right?
I would say so, yes.
Absolutely. It's just pure ego. Okay, Miss Doe, now I'll hear you.
Okay, we did do the pageant. My daughter was offered the prizes of the state queens, the savings bond that originated from her state pageant that I attended in Michigan. That's the only reason we attended her nationals, to receive the savings bond. We went to nationals, we did the pageant, everything was fine, except for she didn't have the savings bond. She said she would overnight it to me. So I started on my way home when I started looking over Lily's scores, which were amazing. So I called the hotel.
Just one second. So you tell me she owes you a savings bond?
Correct.
Do you owe her a savings bond from a previous pageant?
No, ma'am, I don't owe her a savings bond. She did receive the savings bond. And, in fact, I didn't owe her the bond. The Michigan director did. She overnighted the bond to me. I told Miss Doe the day of the crowning it hadn't arrived yet, but it was coming, and I would send it to her.
Did you send the bond?
Yes, ma'am, I sent the bond.
Well, I assume then you have the number of the bond, that you can trace it. Now, how much was the bond for?
$100, Your Honor.
It's a $100 bond. We're not talking about a lot of money, but if you didn't send the bond to her, and you were supposed to, that you have to do. Do you understand?
Yes, I understand.
Good. Perfect. I don't want to see anything.
This is the letter she received with the bond, and it tells about the bond. So if she didn't get the bond, why didn't she speak up? I got this letter, but I didn't get the bond with it?
That's what she
says.
says.
She is lying.
That's what she
Please read
says.
that.
That's what she says. If she did not get the bond, she has to get the bond. All right, but let's go on with why you didn't pay the rest of these fees.
I proceeded on my way home. I didn't check the scores. I just figured, okay, my daughter placed 4th. She's done that before. She's had her wins. She's had her losses.
How many contests have you entered with them?
Beauty pageants, I've done maybe about a dozen of them.
Why?
They have prizes up to $10,000 savings bonds. It's always worth a shot. But anyways, I started checking the scores on the way home. My daughter has amazing scores, 9.8, 9.9. For instance, sleepwear, she got 2 9.8s and a 9.9. Possible 30 points, she got, what would that be, 29.5. I've consulted with 2 other directors who said it's not physically possible 4 babies scored higher than a 29.5 out of 30 possible. Judges don't give straight 10s and straight 9.9s. I called her on the way home twice. Once she was in the pageant still, once I left a voicemail. She didn't return them. I contacted the state director who said to try contacting the parents. Maybe the parents will tell me the daughter's scores.
That's not true.
Well,
don't speak.
I heard from 2 parents.
Listen to me.
Okay.
Don't give me hearsay.
All right.
Go ahead.
Okay, I tried emailing her twice when I didn't receive the bond. Didn't get any results. So I filed a complaint with PayPal, the one I paid her through. They tried contacting her. She ignored them also and refunded my money because they couldn't reach her. They gave her 10 days to respond to the notice.
Okay, just one second. PayPal. What's PayPal?
It's an online computer where you can pay them through your debit, credit.
That didn't have anything to do with the bond. You told PayPal that you didn't receive merchandise.
That would be the savings bond.
You wasn't
No, is
supposed
that-
to receive any,
just a
receive any
second.
merchandise from me.
Shh. Don't speak to her.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
If you have nothing better to do with your time than to take her around to show off her beauty, then what you're telling them from a very early age is that they are judged by the way they look, which is a very stupid thing to do.
And later today,
James had made threats to us and
That's
to
not
our
true,
home.
Robbie. I don't want to
When
hear you
everything
first.
turned violent, we had to have him escorted off the property twice.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Child Beauty Pageant Director Gladys Sirakowski says Victoria Doe owes for the entrance fee for her daughter. Victoria says she stopped payment because the pageant was rigged.
Still, the reason that you stopped payment was not because of this bond that you say you
There were
didn't
two reasons,
receive.
'cause she wouldn't
That
return
you
my calls
say you
about the
didn't
scoring.
receive. The problem was you thought your daughter should have won the contest. As a matter of fact,
Not
when you
one
talk,
place somewhere higher. Yes, I do. 2 other judges or directors agreed.
They weren't there.
There were 5 babies in the
listen
division.
to me. Don't speak to her. How many times do I have to explain to you not to speak to her? You say in your answer that you believe the pageant was rigged. That's why you didn't pay her. It had nothing to do with the bond.
That's not true.
Well,
I
that's
had
what you
2
say in your
reasons.
answer, madam. And that's the only reason that this PayPal would not pay. If you had said to them, I entered my daughter in a contest and I think the contest was rigged and I want to stop paying, they would say, that's not a reason to stop. Listen, Ms. Doe, you want to schlep your daughter from one state to another to be in beauty pageants, that's totally up to you. I cannot discourage you from doing that. Sometimes she's going to win, sometimes she's not going to win. Sometimes somebody's going to be a favorite, and sometimes the whole thing is going to be a sham. If you have nothing better to do with your time than to take her around to show off her beauty, that's a very sad. How old is she?
2.
I would say at 2 you should be sitting home reading books to her, not schlepping her around from one beauty pageant to another. If you don't understand by now that this lady is in business to make money.
I understand that, Your Honor, but it's
Just a
also
sec.
her job
Listen
to
to me.
consult with parents.
Listen to no, it
You
isn't.
can't take their money and
No,
blow
it
'em up.
isn't. You got to pay the money. You don't like this contest? Don't enter it again. You think without witnesses I'm going to find that this contest was rigged? It's not going to happen. I want to tell you something. Very, very good expression. Beauty fades, dumb is forever. What you're supposed to do if you have a daughter is to try to teach her that her mind is more important than her face. And I know that this isn't very good for the plaintiff's business, but if everybody out there would try to understand that what's in here is much more important long term than what's here, and that usually children do not thrive from being schlepped from one place to another and primped and made up, dressed up, because then what you're telling them from a very early age is that they are judged by the way they look, which is a very stupid thing to do. Stupidity here does not get rewarded. She's entitled to her money, $321. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I'm very happy to be getting the money back that's owed to me.
If they weren't going to award my daughter properly, then I deserve the refund.
But I'm not happy with the picture painted of pageants and my business.
Everybody has their own opinions.
She's got a big case of sour grapes.
Medical biller Melanie Howenstein is suing her stepdaughter, 24-year-old retail clerk Christina Howenstein, for assaulting her with a pitcher of beer.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 425 on the calendar in the matter of Howenstein versus Howenstein. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks have seats.
Ms. Howenstein, the defendant is your stepdaughter.
Correct.
Is your husband here today?
Yes, he is.
How long have you been married?
April 2002.
According to your claim, your stepdaughter assaulted you in a bar.
Right.
She said that she was merely defending herself and you hit her first. Is that right?
No, she hit me first, and then I spilled beer on her first, and then she hit me.
hit you first?
Yeah.
You were retaliating?
Yeah.
How long did you know her father before you married?
About 3 years.
Did you get along with the daughter?
She's the one that introduced us.
Really?
Yes.
Well, at what point did the friendship with her become a negative?
Probably right after we got married. She realized that money was going to stop, that Dad was going to stop bailing her out, and that was my fault. So shortly after we were married.
When was this alleged assault?
October 26th.
Tell me about it.
I had gone to a bar in another town with my friend Glee. We got there about 9 o'clock. Approximately 9:30, the defendant and a girlfriend walked in. All night long, they proceeded to flip me off and very immature and childish. About 11:30, I told my friend she had a cell phone. I said, go call my husband, tell him I'm ready to go home. She comes back from the restroom. She said, he'll be here in about a half an hour. About 20 minutes later, the DJ announces that they're starting the big contest. We had no idea what it was even involving. By this time, people are standing. I can't see anything. My friend Glee stands up. They start the contest. She comes down and she said, oh my gosh. And I said, what? She said, your stepdaughter was just on the dance floor, totally naked. And I said, excuse me? By this time, I feel a tap on my shoulder and my husband standing there. He asked me what was going on. I said, I don't know, I didn't see, but Glee just told me that Christina was naked on the dance floor. Well, the contest proceeds.
What kind of contest was it?
It was a
temporary tattoo contest.
Go ahead.
So she comes back, she won the contest for a t-shirt. Looks over her shoulder, sees her dad standing there. She looks at her friend, she starts to giggle, and she says, oh, my dad's here. So she comes running over to talk to him, and he put his hands up like this. And she's, Dad, Dad, and he put his hands up like this, and he said, you know, Christina, you made me really proud tonight. And she snapped. She lost it. She was screaming at him, F you, I hate you, you're worthless. And then she went through everybody that was with us, and F you, and F you, and F you. And I stood up, I put my coat on, I said, you've drawn enough attention to yourself. I'm taking my husband, we're leaving. I went to take a drink of my beer. She smashed my hand. The beer went all over me, the floor, everyone. I went to throw my beer back at her. The glass fell off the front of my hand. She claims it hit her in the chin. Turned around to walk out, picked up half a pitcher of beer and slammed it, hit me in the right here in the head, and we left.
Do you have any medical records?
I do.
Let's see them, please.
Yeah, pictures, ma'am.
I do.
What kind of work do you do?
I work at Best Buy. I'm a laborer, and I work part-time as a bartender.
How old are you?
24.
Who do you live with?
Myself.
What time did you get to the bar on the evening of the 26th of October?
It was probably after 10.
Did you come there directly that evening from home?
I stopped up at the bar that I worked at and met Jack up there, and then we went out there.
Was there a contest that night at the bar?
Yes, there was.
Was it a contest where you had any part of your clothes off? The answer is either yes or no. It's very easy to find out. All I have to do is call the bar. The answer is yes or no.
Yes, I had my clothes off.
Would it be a fair statement that in order to get what appears to be, you know, a reasonably intelligent young woman on bar dance floor, have her take her clothes off, she would have to be a little bit drunk?
Yes, I was.
That would be a fair statement?
Yes, I was.
Had you ever done that before?
No.
Would it be a fair statement that when you saw your father there, that you were a little embarrassed?
No, I didn't even know he was there.
After, I said when you saw your father there.
No, I wasn't embarrassed.
Not at all?
No.
Then you would have had to have been really drunk.
No, because it has nothing to do with him. It's me, not him. So I'm not embarrassed by it. I did what I did. I can't take it back.
But you wouldn't have done it if you weren't drunk?
Probably not.
Your stepmother was injured as a result of you hitting her on the back of the head with a pitcher. And it's clear to me that you started it.
Somewhat, yes.
Because even according to you, you spilled beer on her by tapping her glass.
I didn't tap her glass. I picked someone's beer up off the bar and threw it on her. I wasn't.
Oh, okay.
There was
even worse.
But
even worse.
It was just the beer. I didn't throw the glass at her.
Even worse. I don't care what it is. You started it. And according to these photographs and the medical records, you finished it. And if you can't control your liquor, don't drink. Period. Because if you think that most normal people would say that a 24-year-old intelligent young lady who is self-supporting, works 2 jobs, lives by herself, whether that it's reasonable and normal behavior for her to get up in front of a whole bunch of strangers and take her clothes off is normal behavior. I'm telling you it is not. Not normal behavior, is it?
Not in my book.
Not in mine either.
Coming up on Judge Judy.
She accused my dad of sleeping with my best friend, and I said something to her about it. She drugged me outside with her and my dad and told me that my dad called me a worthless, good-for-nothing person. That's why they wouldn't have another kid.
And later today,
You started sending her letters that you wanted your money. She says, "You're not my lawyer."
She recognized me as her lawyer, and
Did you recognize him as your
Your
lawyer?
Honor, I never spoke with him.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Melanie Howenstein says stepdaughter Christina Howenstein assaulted her in the middle of a nightclub. Melanie says Christina was so drunk she got naked on stage.
What kind of problem do you have with her?
I've really never had a problem with her. We got along fine. Then we've been having a shaky relationship for 3 years since they've known each other.
Why?
I don't have any idea. I have no clue whatsoever. We got along for 10 months. I was happy that they got married. I don't care that they're married. That's their life. I have nothing to do with it. I don't want them divorced. My father said they were going to get divorced because of this whole situation, and I told him not to because I don't live there. It has nothing to do with me.
Good. Perfect.
No problems, but I don't know. This whole thing has been building up and building up. Like her birthday, she accused my dad of sleeping with my best friend, and I said something to her about it because she does it all the time. And I guess that irritated her because she drugged me outside with her and my dad and told me that my dad called me a worthless, good-for-nothing person. That's why they want to have another kid. So
that's why they what?
They want to have a kid together. So that's why they want to have another kid, is to make up for me being a bad seed. So,
well, that's a ridiculous statement. Listen, try to get along with each other. Life is very short. If you're not best friends with your stepmother, be cordial with your stepmother. Where is your biological mother?
Not in the picture.
Not for a long time. So you have no contact with her?
I see her probably 3 times a year, if that.
Okay, you had more of a relationship with your father?
Yes.
Well, don't throw that away. In any event, you're responsible for these medical bills that she had to pay because you started this argument physically. You ended it physically. She was injured. The medical records are clear. You owe her $941. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It was just a temporary tattoo contest. Just no big deal. Just me out having fun doing what I like to do.
There was problems long before I was involved, and she needs someone to blame it on, and I guess I'm the easy target.
My father and I do not talk anymore.
Even if I'm not involved, I think he needs to have a relationship with his daughter.
I want nothing to do with her. I'm not going to talk to him because it'll get back to her about me saying stuff, and it's all going to get twisted around like it has been in the past, so I'm not even going to bother.
19-year-old homemaker Amy Magliazzo is suing factory worker Michael Conroy for running over her 2-year-old son Dylan. Michael says Amy was negligent.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 453 on the calendar in the matter of Magliazzo versus Conroy. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
Miss Magliazzo, this is your son. Tell me his name.
Dylan Magliazzo.
Dylan. All right, he's going to stand right behind you. According to your complaint, your son was run over by the defendant in a parking lot.
Right.
Is there somebody who can take care of him outside?
My brother.
Well, do you want to take him outside and let your brother take care of him?
Mommy.
Good. According to your complaint, the defendant ran over your son's leg in a parking lot. He was in a truck, and you wanted to pay your medical bills and for your son's pain and suffering.
Right.
Mr. Conroy said, in effect, you should have been watching him more closely as he was running around the parking lot. I might have responded somewhat differently, Mr. Conroy. What kind of truck were you driving that day, sir?
A Dodge pickup truck.
Big truck.
Half-ton.
And your son suffered no broken legs, is that right, madam?
Right.
If a half-ton truck ran over a 2-year-old's leg, which according to you happened, that child would not have walked out of this courtroom today.
Well, he did.
Impossible. Impossible for him to have run over the child's leg with a half-ton truck and not had a broken bone. And if he did, he was a very lucky little boy. Very lucky. So if he was so lucky, what I want to know from you is, why are you here?
First of all, when he did hit my son...
Just a second. Let's go back. So you're really going to go through with this. You're in a parking lot. Is that right? What were
Yeah.
you doing in the parking
My
lot?
son wasn't running around. the
What
parking
were you
lot.
doing in the parking lot?
Standing out front. My son wanted to watch
Shh. You were standing out front of what?
the parking lot where my son's father lives.
You have a picture of where this happened?
I do.
Can I see it, please? What time of the year was this?
August.
So there was no snow on the ground like there is in this picture. I want you to have her take a pen, Bird, and mark down where she was standing with the child at first, and then where the child was allegedly run over by the defendant. Where she was standing?
Right here.
And where the child was run over by the...
Right here.
Thank you.
That's where she was, and that's where she says the child was hit.
So you tell me what happened, madam. You're standing outside the parking lot with your son.
Right. And my son wanted to watch the electric company. They were putting power lines there. He wanted to see the big trucks. So we're standing out there. My son's...
How many people? You, your son, and who else?
10 or 12 other people.
And were there other children?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
My son had walked away from me, and I went to go grab him. And Mr. Conroy pulled in the parking lot and then reversed his truck back. Obviously didn't look in his mirrors to see that my son was behind his truck. Hit my son in his head, knocked him over, then was on top of my son's leg. Me and my son's father were screaming and yelling, banging on the man's truck to get off my son's leg. He just looked at us like he didn't know what was going on or anything. Like, it's not even that he didn't know what was going on. We told him, you're on my son's leg, get off my son's leg, and he just looked at us like we were out of it. And finally, after the electric company, the guys from the electric company ran over and everybody ran over, I think he finally realized he was on my son's leg. Well, he pulled his truck up, got off my son's leg, not coming over to see if my son's okay, if he hurt my son, not asking.
When he got off your son's leg, who picked up your son?
I did.
Then did you put him down on the ground?
No.
You didn't let him walk to see if he was okay?
Oh, I picked him up, yeah, and he couldn't even stand on his leg. His leg was like that swollen. I then immediately took him to the emergency room.
Why weren't you watching him more carefully?
I was watching him.
No, you weren't.
He obviously wasn't watching where he's going because he knows kids are in that parking lot every day.
Listen to me, madam. You weren't watching him carefully enough.
So that gives him the right to not...
Listen to me, madam. You weren't watching him carefully enough. How old was he?
2.
And you're in a parking lot, is that right?
In front of a parking lot.
You're in a parking lot.
Right.
Now, I have 8 grandchildren, and I'm still have sufficient brain power to remember when my children were little. When my children were little and I had a 2-year-old, or when I'm walking around with one of my 2-year-old grandchildren in a parking lot, they hold my...
He did have my hand.
He did have your hand?
Yeah. And
Oh,
he let go of
well
my
then,
hand.
shh, quiet. He did have your hand. Then is what you're telling me that when Mr. Conroy hit him and knocked him over, you were holding onto his hand?
No.
So you weren't holding his hand?
No.
Right. What I'm saying to you, madam, is when I'm in a parking lot with my 2-year-old grandchild, or I see my children walking with their children when we pull into a parking lot, we're going someplace, they run out, grab the hand, because they know they're not allowed to cross a street without holding somebody's hand. They're not allowed to be in a parking lot without holding somebody's hand. So
Right, but
you
if-
weren't holding his hand.
I mean, if you drive a truck, don't you look in your mirrors to see if there's anybody behind you?
I'm not saying that he's without fault. I'm saying to me, you seem to think it's all his fault, and it's not.
Oh, I know it's
You're the parent. It's primarily your fault. Now, should he have been watching where he was going? Absolutely. And should he have been more careful if he saw a lot of other people there? Absolutely. And sometimes there's a little child dart out so that even if you are careful, you can miss him? Absolutely. You're not supposed to miss him. That's your only job.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
How am I to know if he was drunk?
How am I to know you weren't drunk? Only a parent who might be drunk or under the influence of something would let a 2-year-old march around by himself in a parking lot. That's what you did. That's what you did.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Amy Magliazzo says her 2-year-old son Dylan was run over by Michael Conroy. Michael says the boy was running around in the parking lot of a bar.
Your only job and his father's only job that day was to make sure that your 2-year-old was holding on to an adult's hand in a parking lot. Right?
Right.
Right. And if you weren't, so that you were acting irresponsibly as a parent, and if you're lucky enough to have gotten away with a warning from God that this is what can happen to you. You can lose your child if you're not more careful, because he wasn't hurt, because he clearly walked out of here.
He has sleeping problems.
That's your problem.
No, it's not.
Well, whose is it? His?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you that's what a lawyer told you. Did you go to see a lawyer?
Yeah.
Now, what'd the lawyer tell you? Pretty much the same thing as what I'm telling you? That's why you're here. Well, he says you have a child in a parking lot. You're supposed to hold their hand.
Does that give him the right to not see?
It's not a matter of right. Don't you seem to get it? He's driving in a truck, and I'm not saying he's without blame. You walked in here saying to me it's all his fault. He ran over my child. He didn't care. He was callous. We kept knocking on the window. You think that this man had a predetermined position to knock your son over, a 2-year-old over, run him over, and when you were banging at the door to tell him to get off your son, that he said, hell with them, I'm just going to keep my truck on his legs?
No, because how am I to know if he was drunk?
How are you to know? I don't know. How am I to know you weren't drunk?
Oh, well, I was.
Yeah, only a parent who might be drunk or under the influence of something would let a 2-year-old march around by himself in a parking lot. That's what you did. That's what you did. Now let me see the medical bills and let me see the report from the police.
One of the medical bills was already paid.
Good.
By his
That's what
insurance
you're supposed
company.
to do. Then I'll get to you, Mr. Conroy. Now, when did the police contact you, Mr. Conroy?
About an hour and a half to 2 hours after the accident.
Why did you go home?
I waited around about 45 minutes to an hour. Police to come, talk to the father. I said, if anybody comes, contact me.
Okay. Final reports. No fracture, no dislocation, and everything else is normal there. Then we go to 3 days later. They also found nothing wrong with the child at that point, and you took the child in there because you said he was having trouble sleeping.
He was waking up crying, saying in the truck.
The reason that you could not get a lawyer to take your case is because your son was not injured. Not every act requires people to take the matter a step further and bring on a lawsuit. You should feel, as I indicated before to you, very, very lucky that despite what could have happened to your son, because you were not vigilant in taking care of him, and because Mr. Conroy probably should have been more careful when he was driving his truck when he saw other kids and people around in the parking lot, despite that, your son was not hurt. The only thing that was reported by you was 3 days later, you went back to the hospital and you said he's having trouble sleeping. That's why you could not get a lawyer to take your case, because in order for there to be liability, there has to be an injury, and there was none. Now, it's possible that your son's going to have, even at his age, a bad recollection for a while about what happened when he was knocked down by a truck. That's possible, but it will pass.
Right.
He was 2 years old.
But it's
and it will pass.
But it's a sleeping disorder. It's a post-traumatic sleeping disorder.
Let me explain something to you, madam. Don't tell me what it is. Are you a psychiatrist?
No, but that's what the doctors.
I'm not interested in what you tell me that the doctors say, because that's not what it says here. And I'm telling you, you're going to have another baby?
Yes.
This is your second child?
Third.
Third child. How old are you?
19.
19. I would suggest that you pay more careful attention to your children at age 19. It's your job to take care of them. At 19, you shouldn't have 3 children to begin with. If you have to take care of them.
I do take care of my kids.
And not put the responsibility of taking care of your children onto somebody else. It was not his responsibility to watch out for your child in the parking lot that day. It was your responsibility and his child's father. And the fact that there was almost an accident, a tragic accident, because your son could have been really hurt or killed or worse, is not his fault. It's your fault.
Mm-hmm.
He is partially responsible, and if the child was hurt, I might have found him partially responsible for the child's medical bills.
So it's okay.
But he was not hurt. And for that, you should say, thank God, and not bring a lawsuit. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
20-year-old Air Force security officer Mandy White is suing her ex-boyfriend, 25-year-old student Bobby Askins, for a false arrest and a restraining order.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 464 on the calendar in the matter of White versus Askins. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Miss White, the defendant used to be your boyfriend.
Yes, ma'am.
And according to your complaint, he had you falsely arrested
Yes, ma'am.
for violating a restraining order that he had against you, and you want him to pay to the tune of some $5,000 for having you falsely arrested. Mr. Askins says that he could have made an honest mistake.
Yes.
That's your defense. When were you arrested on this violation of the protective order that he had?
29th of August, 2002, ma'am.
And when had he received his protective order?
19th of July, ma'am.
Okay. Mr. Askins, why did you feel as if you needed a protective order against Miss White in July?
Because she'd caused problems at work. She's caused problems when I'd go out with my friends. She'd come by friends' houses.
Did she ever damage any of your property?
No, ma'am.
Did she ever assault you or touch you in any way?
No, ma'am.
When had you separated from Miss White?
Around May.
So far, is that correct, that you separated in May?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a final protective order?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you consent to that? Or was there a trial?
There was a trial, ma'am.
When was the trial?
The trial was on the 1st of August, ma'am.
Okay. He filed for a protective order because he said you were harassing him. Then on August 1st, there was a trial on his request for a permanent order for a year or 3 years?
Forever, as far as I knew. It'd be permanent.
Nothing's forever. Let's say for a year. There was a trial. Did you have a lawyer?
No, ma'am.
Did you testify before a judge?
No, ma'am.
How could there be a trial? Did you have a trial in secret somewhere?
We had a trial, ma'am, and we were moved to a different courtroom, to a judge that usually doesn't do restraining orders.
I don't care whether it was a judge. Did you have a trial before a judge and give testimony before a judge?
Mr. Askins did, ma'am.
What about you?
No, ma'am. He just asked me if I wanted any contact with Mr. Askins, and I stated no. At that time, he made it permanent.
All right, so on 8/1, he was granted a permanent order of protection. Now, Mr. Askins, I want you to tell me what happened on August 29th that caused you to have Miss White arrested.
I was over at a friend's house. It was 2 other friends and myself. We were outside. It was late, probably 2, 3 a.m., something like that. And a car pulled up. A woman got out, started cussing. It looked like Mandy White.
Just a second. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. You're outside, and a car pulled up. Were you sitting outside on somebody's porch? Were you sitting outside on a curb? Were you sitting outside on a grassy knoll? Where were you sitting?
Sitting outside on the porch.
And how far away was the truck?
Probably 30, 40 feet.
And it's dark outside?
Yes, ma'am.
So a truck pulls up, and very slowly you're going to tell me what happened.
A woman got out, started yelling cuss words.
Who got out?
A woman that looked like Mandy White got out, started yelling cuss words. I called the police and told them that I couldn't be 100% certain that it was her, but it did look like her, and the car was like hers. And from there, they arrested her, and the DA picked up the charges against her.
You mean you're sitting 40 feet away, and the person actually got out of the car and started to curse at you, and you couldn't tell that that person was your girlfriend or not?
Not 100% with it being dark.
Miss White, before the 29th of August, could you tell me why you were bothering him?
I wasn't, ma'am.
Why would he think you were bothering him?
I don't know, ma'am.
Where were you on the evening of August 29th?
I was at home asleep, ma'am.
Could you tell me where you were when the police arrested you?
Yes, ma'am. I had left for work that morning at 4:40, and we go to Peterson Air Force Base to pick up a van, and we drive it to Schriever Air Force Base. And I had gotten my weapon, and I was on post already, and my supervisor came and relieved me, and they took my weapon away in front of everybody and said that I needed to go to the commander's office. We went to the commander's office, and they then told me that I was under investigation for disobeying a lawful order, which was to stay away from Mr. Askins. Then they also told me that I had a warrant out for my arrest. So Master Sergeant took me to the sheriff's office in Colorado Springs, and they arrested me at that time. And then the Air Force did an investigation also, and everybody was interviewed and investigated while I was
I'd like
there.
to see the interviews.
Yes, ma'am.
How many friends were you with that night, sir?
2 friends.
Your 2 friends lied to the police, right?
No, ma'am.
Oh, yes, they did. Seen the results of this paperwork and the investigation that was done?
No, I haven't.
Well, I'm going to tell you that when your 2 friends told the responding officer, because you called the police and you had some time to talk to your friends before they arrived, your friends told the police that you had all gone outside to smoke a cigarette and that your 2 friends each told the police that they saw her pull up into the driveway, curse you, scream at you. That's what they told them, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. And so did you. There's nothing in this original report that suggests, sir, that you told the police that you weren't quite sure who it was. It looked like Miss White. You and your friends told the police initially that there was no question that it was Miss White. You want me to read you what you said?
Sure.
He, that's you, stated that he went outside to smoke a cigarette, at which time he observed the dark bronze Saturn pull into the driveway. Askins stated that at this time, White opened the driver's door of the vehicle and stepped outside. Askins stated that White then began to curse at him. He stated that after listening to White curse at him, he told her to leave, at which time she did. Where is there any question in that statement that you weren't sure of the identity of the person? Then he goes on to interview, stated that he was watching television when he heard someone yelling. He stated that he got up, looked out the front door, at which time he witnessed White yelling at Askins. And then Mr. also stated that he witnessed White yelling at Askins. And then I have a letter saying that the military has indicated that they will recommend that charges be filed against all 3 individuals for filing false charges against her. Anything ever happened with that?
Not that I'm aware of.
Mm-hmm. The statements that each of the 3 of you gave to the responding officer were directly contradictory to the statements that they gave later. That's what it says here. You want to look at this?
No, ma'am, that's okay.
Well, Mr. Askins, how do you respond to that, sir?
That their statements were different?
Mm-hmm.
How were they different?
Well, it's different when you say it could have been my ex-girlfriend, but it was dark and I couldn't be sure. That's different from it was Miss White. No question. That's different. Don't you see it's different?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you think of any reason, Miss White, why Mr. Askins would want to be vicious and vindictive?
Because I broke up with him, ma'am.
Did you?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about it.
We were together for about 6 months, and we had lived together. And he was very, very controlling. He would get upset when I wanted to see my family, and he wouldn't let me go. So I told him we should just be friends, and we were going to sleep in different bedrooms because I had a 2-bedroom apartment. He said that was too weird, and so he moved out. And then he just kept following me, and his truck was parked near my apartment at all times of the night.
Did Miss White break up with you?
It's more of a mutual thing than anything.
Explain it to me.
We were just fighting, weren't really getting along. And
did she tell you that she wanted just to be friends and that you could share the apartment but not her bedroom? Did she tell you that?
Yes. And I did move out and also left like certain items, so like a couch, so she wouldn't be without a couch and stuff like that.
But she broke up with you. She told you she wasn't interested in continuing the relationship as it had been. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, so can you explain to me what would be her rationale? What would motivate her to stalk you if, Mr. Askins, she broke up with you? Tell me why she would come stalking you and cursing you.
I have no idea.
She's not psychotic, is she?
I don't know.
Are you?
No.
Miss White, I have to make a judgment, and this is a very serious judgment that I have to make, because usually when you have a victim of a crime, if we were to award civil damages to someone who was harmed by being falsely arrested, that might have a chilling effect on the entire justice system, because people would have fear of coming forward, unless you can demonstrate to my satisfaction or to a court's satisfaction that someone maliciously and without cause filed a report that they knew or believed was either untrue or probably not true, and the police acted on it. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
So what do we have here? We have a guy who was told to get out of the bedroom, that you were no longer interested in having a romantic relationship with him. He's out at 3 o'clock in the morning with some of his buddies, drinking. The 3 of them tell the exact same story to the police, that they saw you at a time when it was confirmed, evidently, through investigation that you were home. Couldn't have been you. As a result of which you were arrested, you were humiliated, and you want to be compensated.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm satisfied that what he did was malicious. And this is probably one of the first times that I've been so satisfied. I'm satisfied what he did was malicious. What he did is because he's a big baby. What he did is because he's probably too short for a variety of reasons. In any event, I'm awarding you what you request, $5,000. That's all.
Yes, ma'am.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It's been pretty traumatic.
Got phone calls in the middle of the night, everything from her.
I think he's just a mean person.
Keep her away from me.
He started controlling her when they were dating, and he didn't like the fact that she didn't want to be with him anymore, and he was doing anything that he could to make her life horrible.
The victim, me, I feel like I am.
Finally, we have justice. Judge Judy is the best.
Secretary Crystal Gibson is suing the father of her children, network control operator Marvin Bryant, for cutting up her clothes and vandalizing her car in a fit of jealous rage.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom. Now, this is case number 370 on the calendar in the matter of Gibson versus Bryant. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Oh, I see we have a little show and tell here. Miss Gibson, according to your complaint, you and the defendant have 2 children together?
Yes, ma'am.
And on 2 separate occasions, the defendant, for no reason at all, went nuts, destroyed some of your property. In July, he destroyed your clothes and a bed, and then again in November, you say he damaged your car. Mr. Bryant says he did neither.
That's correct.
Is that right?
Judge. Yes.
You don't live together, is that right?
Correct.
How old are your children?
7 and 8.
When was the last time you lived together?
92, 93, up until about 2001.
From what I gather, after you stopped living together, you still had a civil relationship because he would watch the kids when you worked.
Well, I went to school.
Or went to school. Now, what happened on this day in July? You want to tell me about it?
Well, on July the 12th, me and him was supposed to be getting back together. The next day, he went out and I went out. So on July the 14th, about 5 that morning, he called me on my cell phone. And he asked me where was I at. And I told him...
Where was he when he called you on the cell phone?
He had just left the club. And I guess he had came over to my apartment, but I wasn't there. Well, by the time I got home, his car was out there. And when I got upstairs, I had saw where he had kicked my door in, but I thought by that time he had calmed down because on the phone he was telling me, you need to get here and whatever.
Was he in your apartment when you got home?
Yes, ma'am, he was.
Is that right, sir?
No, it's not, ma'am. I haven't been in her apartment. I was not in her apartment in July at all. The only time I've been in that apartment was when the kids started school, which was in late August, early September. And I would go over there and drop the kids off until she got out of school.
Go ahead.
He asked me where I had been, and he said he know I had been with the guy that I had been seeing. And so, you know, he was just talking, and he ripped my clothes off that I had on at that time or whatever. And he was just saying, you know, women, that's why a lot of women like you are in the grave for doing this. He said, I hurt him. He said that rather than killing me or doing something bad to me, that he would take it out on my clothes. So he went to the back and started tearing up my clothes. And
let me see what he did.
He took scissors and cut up my clothes.
What else did he do?
And I have pictures here and evidence where he ripped my bed up, the paws off my bed.
Okay. And he eventually left?
He was still tearing up my stuff. At the time, one of my friends was living with me, and she came home, and she calmed him down, and eventually he left.
You didn't report this to the police, did you?
No, ma'am. I didn't report it to the police because my phone, I don't have a phone.
Don't give me an excuse. You didn't, is the reason. You didn't.
Right, I didn't.
There came a time in November when you say you had another incident with Mr. Bryant. You want to tell me about the other incident?
Well, prior to that, before that, I put him on child support, and he's upset about that situation. Well, November the 6th, I go to school. It was a Wednesday, and that night I go to school from 6 to 9:50. Well, I called him when I got out of class and told him I was on my way to have the kids ready. Because
so he was babysitting for you?
Yes, ma'am.
So I assume you had patched up whatever differences that you had so that you were still now on speaking terms again after the July incident. Is that right?
Because he started paying me for this. He paid me like $200.
Oh, he did?
We're at a...
Shh. What do you mean he paid you $200?
He gave me $200, but...
To cover your clothes?
Well, no, he was supposed to keep on paying me.
Was that supposed to be for the clothes that he destroyed?
Right.
Okay.
So I called him when I got out of class and told him that, you know, I was out of class to have the kids ready. So when I got there, they weren't ready. So I went in and I asked him, you know, where are the kids? He said they're back there in their room. So he said he needed to talk to me. So I entered his bedroom and we started talking, and he asked me why was I putting them on child support. And I told him it's nothing to talk about, you know, because it's already taken care of.
Who was supporting you at that time?
He was giving me $100 every 2 weeks. My 2 kids attend tutoring.
$100 every 2 weeks doesn't make it. Were you working?
Yes, I work.
What kind of work were you doing?
I'm a secretary one at Department of Education, Special Education.
So you were working and going to school?
Yes, ma'am.
You working full time?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Go ahead.
Well, he was saying that why am I putting him on child support or whatever, and started talking about some other issues about my personal life and whatever. And then he started teasing me about I had a fight with this girl, and he said he beat me up, and I told him, you don't know what went on because you wasn't there. And so, you know, he was like, yeah, you got yourself whooped or whatever. And I made a statement that made him upset. I said, well, we'll see what you going to do when they start taking out for child support. And that's when he really went crazy on me and pushed me out of his house and jumped on me or whatever. Then when I got at the door, I called him out of his name, and it really upset him, so he came out the door and pushed me onto my car. And I got in the car, and I was so nervous and upset till I accidentally put the car in the wrong gear, and it hit his car. And he came out trying to put my kids in the car, but I was afraid that he was going to jump on me again, so I locked the doors. And at that time, as you see, I got a picture where he, my little rearview mirror.
You pulled the rearview mirror off.
He hit it.
Where were your children?
He had woke them up, and they were outside.
They were outside seeing all this?
Tell them where they were.
They saw the end part of it.
Tell them where they were.
Where were they, sir?
Right beside me when she tried to run me over with the car, and all of us had to run out the way.
So you did have an argument with her at that?
Yes, we did have an argument.
Okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He's still sleeping with me.
If you know he's got somebody new, he's got a new child, and you allow yourself to be suckered in,
right?
That's your fault.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Crystal Gibson says the father of her children, Marvin Bryant, cut up her clothes and vandalized her car. Marvin says Crystal is making up a story.
I want to know something, sir. I read your answer very carefully. You claim that you got an order of protection, a protective order against her two weeks ago. Tell me about that.
Well, we did get into an argument. It was not about child support. Child support has been pending since August, July, and why would I wait till November to say something about it? It was not about child support. The argument was about, my kids told me about a lot of activity that's going on in her house, and I told her.
Okay. Now, when you say you got an order of protection, was that after a trial? Did you have a hearing?
Yes, we did.
You did have a trial?
Yes, we went to court for the order of protection.
You have a copy of that order of
Yes, I do.
protection? I'd like to see it, please. All right. So that both of you were present before the circuit court judge, and the court excluded you from his place of business, the court excluded you from his residence. That order of protection is good for 1 year.
Yes, ma'am, he did.
You didn't tell me you did anything wrong.
I didn't do anything.
Well, then how come you think that the judge gave him an order of protection?
Because I was nervous when we went to court and didn't understand what she was saying. She asked me, did I read the petition? I said, yes, ma'am, I did. She asked me, did I agree? I said, yes, ma'am, I did. But I was nervous and didn't understand at that point in time.
I see. Well, then I can't hear your complaints about anything that happened in November, madam. And I don't understand what you're talking about in this stuff in July. I don't think you would have been here but for the fact that he got this protective order against you. That's what I think. Tell me about the damage that was done, sir, to her bed.
I don't know anything about the bed. I was not in our house to do any damage to her bed. She's been obsessed with me ever since I found a new girlfriend. I have a child by my new girlfriend, and she's been harassing us ever since we've been involved. She'd come to our house, try to bust her windows, try to kick her door down. I opened the door, she hit me with a cell phone maybe 15 to 20 times. I wouldn't do anything. We called the police to her house, but she was gone by that time, so they didn't do anything. I didn't pursue that. Then on the issue of the night about the order of protection, when she ran my car, she did not accidentally put the car in drive. Drive is 3 gears down, reverse is 1 gear down.
Right.
So she ran my car. I went out to look at my car. As I was walking off, she hit me with her car.
What kind of damage did you have done to your car?
She didn't do much damage to my car. My car has a iron, like metal bumper, so it didn't do much to my car. And if it did, I wouldn't be trying to sue her for it because we have kids together. I don't want to take anything from my kids.
How much child support are you paying now, sir?
Well, they haven't set the court hasn't set an establishment yet. As she was stating, I was paying $200 a month, but when...
Okay, what kind of work do you do?
I'm a computer network control operator.
How much do you earn?
30 grand a year.
You two folks have 2 children together.
Yes, ma'am.
And you've never been married. I assume that's because you weren't big on commitment, but having 2 children is a commitment. And then you move right along, Mr. Bryant, and have a new girlfriend and a new child.
Exactly.
That he's not sure about, but he go out and get an attorney because...
No. What I'm saying to you is, it's time to start thinking like a grown-up.
Exactly.
If you have children, usually people get married and they decide to have a family, and then they have 1 child and they see how they can manage that, and then they have another child if they want to. You don't test out the waters by having a baby. What you usually do is you try to see if your relationship works, so that you don't send kids all over the place. They spend some time with you, some time with their mother. Kids have seen a lot of violence based upon what you both tell me, which is not a good thing for children. In any event, Ms. Gibson, you're not entitled to any money. Period. I don't believe that you put your car in drive by accident, and neither did the judge who heard the case involving the application for his protective order against you. Have you been bothering him and his new girlfriend?
In the past?
That's it. No, not right now. Right now you're here. In the past, of course in the past. Why? Why?
Because he's still sleeping with me.
That's your fault.
True.
If you know he's got somebody new, and he's got a new child, and you allow yourself to be suckered in,
right?
That's your fault. He's a man. You're supposed to think more of yourself. You're supposed to say, I'm not going to let him use me, right?
That's what I come to say, and that's why he's harassing me now.
He's not harassing you now. No. And don't do it after today either. You living with your new girlfriend?
No, I'm not.
So what do you do? Just have girlfriends, have babies, and live by yourself?
No, that's not it.
What do you, well, clearly.
Well, I'm not living with her right now because we're just, I mean, I lived with her for a while and that didn't work out. I don't want to make the same mistake with this one.
That's why you don't have a child until you make up your mind.
Well, exactly, I understand that.
Exactly, I understand.
Things happen. I mean,
Listen,
it's not like I sit out and plan.
Grow up, everybody. I want you to be prepared to dig deeper in your pockets by the time your support case reaches the court.
I understand that.
Because under the federal guidelines, you're going to give her 33 1/3% of your salary. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
So I want you to start kissing goodbye $300 every 2 weeks. And in order for you to get used to that, I would suggest you start to do it now, so it doesn't come as a big shock to you.
Well,
do you understand?
When I was giving her the money, she all of a sudden said, when she filed a child support claim, she said, I don't want it, don't give me anything, because she's trying to make them think that I'm not doing anything when the kids are at my house and I'm doing everything for them right now.
Mr. Bryant, do you have a lawyer?
Yes, I do.
If you have a lawyer, I'm certain that your lawyer is going to tell the court that what you really do is you have a shared custody situation. If, in fact, you have a shared custody situation where each of you have the children 50% of the time, there may be no order of support.
That's what.
Maybe there's no order of support, but I would get myself in the thinking mode of a third.
Because he go to school Monday and Tuesday, so.
Goodbye, be well, have a happy life, take your clothes.
Why is her excuse? You may step out.
She probably tore them up herself.
Why would I cut up $2,000 worth of clothes?
She's jealous of me and my girlfriend right now.
I don't care what he do. He's in my business now.
Mary Favre and Jason Stockton are suing Mary's brother, Michael Manry, for medical bills and personal belongings.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2117, Favre Stockton versus Manry.
Thank you, Kevin. Mr. Manry, this is your sister.
Correct.
And that is her
fiance.
And you have a son who is 19.
Yes, Your Honor.
How many other children do you have?
I have 3 altogether.
How old?
One is almost 30, the other one is 18, and then I got the 19-year-old, which one here.
Okay. And Your son, who is now 19, is the subject of this case. Who had custody of the children?
I got custody of Dakota now.
When did you get custody of the children?
Only when he was 18 years old.
Do you have those papers, sir?
Yes, I do.
May I see them, please? Okay, so this grants you, sir, legal and physical custody of Dakota Manry until further order of the court. So what this case is about now, and I assume from what I've read, that Dakota has certain special needs.
Yes, ma'am.
And because of his special needs, he is unemployed. Did he finish any sort of a high school?
He graduated.
He graduated from
Yes.
high school?
Yes.
Did he go to a special school?
He went to a regular school, but he was in special education.
And when he graduated, did he graduate when he was living with you?
Yes.
Okay, so this is what your case is about. At some point, according to you, you have a niece. And your niece wanted to have Dakota come and stay with her for a couple of days. You were at the time, according to your answer, sort of in between residences. You were evicted from one place and going someplace else?
I was in the process of moving. I got my niece to go with me to, ask her if she'll bring me to go get Dakota by my cousin's house. And she said, sure.
Okay. Dakota went to live for a few days, at least, at your niece's house.
No, not live there. No, not live there. No, ma'am.
Well, he was there overnight.
He was over there overnight.
How many nights was he there overnight?
I think about maybe a week. I was supposed to be
okay.
3 days.
So he was there.
Yeah.
During that time, you, who are his aunt,
yes, ma'am,
went to your niece's house and you saw Dakota there.
Yes, ma'am.
And according to you, became concerned because, according to you, it looked like he hadn't showered in a week.
He was in dirty clothes. He just looked awful.
So you decided to take him to live with you?
I asked him, I said, do you want to come to the house to stay, a little while, where he can eat and all that, because he looked like he hadn't ate either.
Okay. Well, this is what your case is about. You decided to take him, didn't discuss it with his father. During the time he was with you, he had some expenses. You want his father to be responsible for those expenses, and you want his father to return certain of his personal property. That's what the case is about.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. First, let me deal with all things legal. I have an order here dated January 21st, 2021, which grants physical and legal custody of Dakota to his father. Do you have any subsequent order granting you custody or guardianship, is my question.
I have power of attorney.
That is not the same thing. Can I see what they have?
Power of attorney when I didn't give her permission. I got custody. Okay.
Okay, this was signed by Dakota, so he's giving you legal power to act on his behalf.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, Dakota, by signing this power of attorney, he's saying that I am a whole person, and I give you the right to make medical decisions for me if he can't do them. It's a general power of attorney in case he becomes unable to make decisions on his own. This is an order of custody. You have power of attorney. Power of attorney suggests to me that Dakota wants to emancipate himself from his father, wants someone else to act on his behalf. It becomes a complex question because if Dakota has special needs and if he can't act on his own, and a court has already ruled that his father should have custody of him, either you have a power of attorney and he's emancipated, in which case his father's not responsible for any of his medical bills, or this is invalid because he can't sign a power of attorney because he doesn't have the mental capacity to understand all of the implications of this power of attorney. Now, your nephew was in special classes.
Yes, ma'am.
And do you know what the nature of his disabilities are?
Fetal alcohol syndrome.
Is that his diagnosis, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
He had, according to you, after you took him from your niece's house, and you do acknowledge you took him without his father's permission.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
We was not talking, me and him.
It doesn't make any difference if you were talking or not.
I didn't have his number, and I asked Dakota, I said, text your daddy to let him know you're coming with me. Dakota said, and he showed me where he texted Michael. Now, I don't know if it was on a different Facebook page.
No, it's your responsibility to notify his guardian, who has custody, that you have taken physical custody of him.
Right.
And when did you take physical custody of him? Give me the month, day, and year.
May 20th of this year, 2022.
Now, while you had physical custody of Dakota, you indicate that he had surgery.
Yes, ma'am.
And part of what you want Mr. Manry to pay for is the ambulance bill. What kind of surgery did he have?
Brain surgery, and he had a feeding tube put in him.
Just a second. What caused you to take him to a hospital or to a doctor?
Your Honor, when he arrived at the house on the 20th, he had very bad slurred speech, and his balance was completely off. He was falling over. Your Honor, it was like he was a drunken man.
Let me go back to you for a second, sir. While Dakota was with you in the months just prior to May, did you notice Dakota having difficulty in his gait?
Not like he was explaining to me, I was going overboard.
No, did you?
But his balance was off, okay.
Did you inquire? Did you take him to the doctor?
I did. I took him, actually, right after I got him.
So you saw that balance was off a while ago?
When I noticed that he had headaches, all right, because his dream, that, thanks to me, was wrestling. He loves wrestling. I put him in wrestling. I talked to the promoters, and I did that for him. But when I seen every time he got body slammed, you know, and this and that, I had to take him out of it. I got concerned because he was complaining of headaches. So I made him an appointment, and I waited for a referral. Well, when the referral came in, my kid was kidnapped.
So he never actually saw the second doctor?
No.
Okay. Do you have any records?
Well, I couldn't get the records. I tried to get them.
Once something went wrong, my kid died doing surgery. I couldn't even be there for him and all that. Anything could have happened.
Just a second. I'm following you, sir. Now, when did you take him for this brain surgery?
I took him the first week of June. I took him to do a CAT scan. And as soon as she did that, we went to the hospital. We didn't leave the hospital. They put him in the ER. And from the ER, we went to Florence, Alabama. And then the surgeons there couldn't do it because it was so big.
What was so big?
Your Honor,
brain.
they found a mass the size of a grapefruit. The first week, Dakota came to stay with us after we noticed the balance issues and the slurred speech. She took him to doctor who diagnosed him with being severely malnutritioned. Your Honor, when he came to my house, his
liar.
No.
Okay, I'm sorry. Your Honor, sorry. My apologies.
His leg was no bigger round than my wrist.
I got it. Mr. Manry, everything has to be put in perspective. You had a lot of things going on. And if Mr. Stockton's reporting to me is accurate, even though there might be some bad feeling of the way your sister and her fiancé took physical custody of Dakota, you really have to be in a position to say thank you to them, because you, for whatever reason, not for lack of trying, nobody is suggesting for lack of trying, you did try to take him to a doctor, you did see that there were things wrong with him. I understand that it's not always that easy to get the right specialist to get involved in this kind of surgery, but you really have to take a breath. Yeah. And I assume it's accurate, because I cannot assume that anybody would perform brain surgery on a child that was not necessary. That
okay, y'all, why she couldn't call me instead of calling the mother?
Just a second. Your sister should have called you and told you that Dakota was going into the hospital to have surgery. That would have been the nice thing to do. Did you do that?
She did.
No, she did not.
She called
I called
their
my mama.
mother.
Well, calling your mother.
His phone was disconnected. I did not have the new number until he called me or texted me with a bunch of drama. That's when I got his number.
You took my kid from me. You kidnapped my son no matter what.
Mr. Manry, what I want you to do is just take a breath for a moment.
Yes, ma'am. Dakota kept texting me, you know, he kept on like video chatting me and everything. And then all of a sudden, like a light switch, he changed and everything. The boy's mind's being poisoned by Mary and
No, so far, Mr. Manry, you're not losing this case, so I don't know what you're agitated about.
Mary Favre and Jason Stockton claim Mary's brother, Michael Manry, owes for medical bills and personal belongings. Michael is countersuing, saying they illegally took his son from his custody.
Mr. Manry, Dakota was only at your niece's house for a short while. You already told me that when he came to you, his gate was off. So right before he went to stay for a couple of days at your niece's house, was his speech slurring?
No. He always had a speech impairment because of the disability, but his speech was not slurred at all. That is a lie. Him having the skinny arms and all, that's all
Okay,
lie.
I'm not talking about skinny arms. I'm talking about this his slurred speech. What I was saying to you, Mr. Manry, is that I don't think there are any bad guys here. I don't think that you're a bad guy. And I don't think that your sister and her fiance meant any harm when they saw a situation that they thought was dangerous. And as it turned out, they were able to get him seriously needed medical care. That doesn't mean it was all done right. But what you're asking for is to be compensated by the defendant for the cost of the ambulance bill that you incurred. Now, this power of attorney was signed by Dakota, if in fact he had capacity to sign this power of attorney. It was done 2 weeks after his first surgery. So up until that time, even if I could construe this as a valid document, his father had legal and physical custody of Dakota. And I assume that's because he had special needs and is unable to live on his own. Is your son able to live on his own?
No, he never will.
Okay, so that's what I assume as a result of this order. If you want this order changed, you have to go back to the court in Mississippi. You have to be declared his guardian.
Your Honor, we did not want to be declared his guardian. The reason the POA came about to start with, during the entire surgical...
Your Honor, can I say something?
The father was aware of it. So was the mother. The mother was actually present at most all of the appointments.
It doesn't matter. The mother doesn't have custody, legal or physical.
We were under the impression, and were told she did, that he only had a temporary custody. So she showed up to say she had to sign all the documents. She was going to do this. She was going to do this. She was going to do this.
Did she sign the documents?
She signed some. Then under social services directions, Mary was informed she should go after a power of attorney. It was discussed with both Dakota and her.
It may be. That's not a lawyer. That's bad advice. Now, just before I get to the issue of clothing, property, whatever he has that's at your house, and where it should go from here, your first stop is to go back to the court in Mississippi that issued this order.
Yes, ma'am.
And say to them, I need Dakota's law guardian. He'll be appointed a guardian for himself, independent of you, and they will interview him and they will do certain evaluations of him and determine where it is that he wants to live. But you have to do that in court. You can't do that ad hoc because you relied on his mother's statements that she had the authority to sign off on these things. She did not until this is changed. And if you want to change it, you are free to go in and try. And then Dakota will be interviewed and seen by a psychologist or a psychiatrist, and he'll have a medical evaluation and determine whether or not he is a person who actually requires guardianship. And if he requires guardianship, you can petition for that, and you'll have a trial. This is not that trial.
Yes, ma'am.
Did Dakota have Medicare?
Medicaid.
He had Medicaid.
That would pay for the ambulance ride.
Yeah, I just want to know if he had Medicaid. He did.
I did give them the Medicaid number, and they keep sending me a bill, and I called them, and they said because it's a different state, it's not covered.
It doesn't matter. Tell them to send their bills to his father. Tell them that you do not have custody or guardianship of this child. His father has custody, guardianship, and this bill is not yours.
The bill is going to Dakota. They're going after Dakota for it. His Medicaid didn't pay for it.
They may be going after Dakota for it. They will be very smart seeking payment from people who can pay them, which is his parents. Right now, you're not legally responsible to pay for his ambulance bill. The only person who might be legally responsible for it is his father, and that will be up to the ambulance company to do. This is not your responsibility at all. So discount the ambulance bill. Next to Dakota's things, you want property that he has in his father's house. So let me go back to you with regard to my statement to you 4 minutes ago. You have to have this custody order modified. You have to go back to the same court that issued a legal and physical custody order of Dakota to his father and say, we would like guardianship of him. He wants to stay with us. He's 19 years old. He will be interviewed. He'll be analyzed. And if at the end of the day you get guardianship of Dakota, then his father may or may not turn over whatever property he has. Dakota's never worked. So whatever property he has was either purchased or given to him by either his mother or his father or other relatives.
A lot of it was his mom that paid for the stuff.
I don't know that.
No, the bottom line is why all this balls down through, Your Honor.
So far, Mr. Manry, you're not losing this case, so I don't know what you're agitated about. You're not losing. You're not losing. What I'm telling the plaintiffs is that if they think that they can provide a more pleasant, stable environment for Dakota, they have the right to petition for guardianship of him. Now, it would be in Dakota's best interest long-term if he were to have contact with both his mother and his father. Contact. I'm not saying live with. Mother, father, and his aunt, and his soon-to-be uncle, as soon as you make up your mind and give her a ring. It's in his best interest. He needs the largest community that he can.
Agree.
Okay? We're going to stop throwing barbs because that only serves to inflame already raw emotions. I want you to say, I am angry that I wasn't consulted in this massive surgery that your son had, but I'm grateful that it was done, because if it wasn't done, in all probability, he wouldn't be here. You just have to think about that.
Mary Favre and Jason Starkton have accused Mary's brother, Michael Manry, of owing for an ambulance bill. Michael claims Mary and Jason took his son without his permission.
What I'm telling you is a very simple procedural thing where you have to go. You can't sue him for the return of Dakota's things unless you have guardianship of Dakota.
Understood.
Because he already is the subject of a recent order of custody from a court. That's what you have to have. You can take that bill from the ambulance service, put it in an envelope, we'll get you the address, and that's where that goes. That's his father, who is his legal parent under this order. So send that bill to them, so you don't have to worry about that bill. As far as his property is concerned, that has to go along with an order of custody or guardianship, and that's something that you should do. But, Mr. Manry, I am not making a decision with regard to his custody or not. What I'm asking you is, until a court reviews whatever orders they're going to make with regard to custody and guardianship, first, I know you may be angry, but they probably saved his life by getting him to the doctor that they did. And if they removed a massive tumor from his brain, you should say, thank you for doing that, because it was a month after he was living with you. Someone else took your son and saved his life. And for that, at least, you have to be grateful. You can be angry. You can be angry that you didn't get it done before. You can be angry that somebody else did it without consulting you. You can be angry at all of those things. But at the same time, you have to feel grateful that it was done.
There wasn't no reason they kidnapped my son.
Okay. Mr. Manry, you keep going back to the same song.
I was worried
You
about
keep
him.
going back to the same song. And what I'm saying to you is, their next stop, if Dakota wants to live with them, and he's right now over 19 years old, is to the court who issued the order to modify that order. All I'm saying to you is, I want you to say, I am angry that I wasn't consulted or didn't participate in this massive surgery that your son had. But I'm grateful that it was done, because if it wasn't done, in all probability, he wouldn't be here. You just have to think about that. What I'm telling you is, you have to love your child more than you, at this moment, dislike your sister and her fiancé, because they were able to take control of a situation and get your child fixed. So is Dakota, just for my own, is Dakota angry with his father?
He's angry that his father won't return any of his wrestling He is correct. He is a huge wrestling fanatic.
Okay. What particularly does he want? He wants his wrestling?
He wants his wrestling belts. They have replica belts that were made. He wanted his PlayStation 4 and the wrestling game.
PlayStation 4, I'm not interested in that. He wants his wrestling belts.
Yes, ma'am.
Yana, can I show you something right quick on my phone? Dakota kept texting me, you know, he kept on like video chatting me and everything. And then all of a sudden, like a light switch, he changed and everything. The boy's mind's being poisoned by Mary and Jason.
What I'm telling you, Mr. Manry, that's for another court and another day. When Dakota has a lawyer, you may have a lawyer to modify this custody order. Right now, he would like his wrestling belts.
Oh, I want my son to come home.
Okay, then I strongly urge you to go to the court, file a petition against them for custodial interference, or you go to court and file an application for guardianship of Dakota, which is a much more positive thing to do, and let a court that has the social work services, the psychiatric services, evaluate Dakota and figure out in whose best interests are we supposed to place faith. And I think if he is a thinking young man, and you told me that he is because he wants these things that are important to him, he should be able to have a say with whom he lives. Now, you have my ruling. Your next stop, folks, is to modify the order of the court in Mississippi that gave his father custody, physical and legal custody of him. You have to petition for guardianship. That's your next step. So, in that regard, your case is dismissed. Send the ambulance bill to his father.
I got a countersuit.
We're done.
Your Honor.
Yeah, I'm not hearing it, sir.
Okay. I did everything I can for my kids, and
My brother, he said nothing but lies.
when somebody takes your kid without your permission,
But, you know, that's him. I mean, that's what he does.
you don't know where they're at, and you're going crazy because you don't know where your kid's at, that's kidnapping.
I should get a thank you out of it, but he's not going to do that.
I want my son to come home to his daddy because I love him very much. That's my son.
It's about him. It's not about her. It's not about her and her brother. It's not about me and her brother.
My son, I love him. I'll do anything in the world for him.
It's about Dakota.
So you didn't listen to the defendant's counterclaim back there for emotional distress for, I believe it was $3,500. I would have given that to him. I don't think anyone was acting maliciously in this case. Like you said to the father, he should be grateful that his son is alive and his sister took action when he might have been stumbling a little bit. But that's what that cause of action is for, when someone takes an action that was legally incorrect. And here, the plaintiffs had no legal right to take him to get that surgery. I agree that he should have had it and it all came from a good place. However, when you take an action that causes somebody else such severe emotional distress, and I would consider taking someone else's child in for the riskiest surgery that probably exists, qualifies as causing some severe emotional distress. So I probably would have awarded him that if I was ruling.
Well, so let me give you the reason that I didn't bother to hear it. I think the aunt and her fiance had nothing but pure motives in taking this 19-year-old who they say appeared to be malnourished, and they say was diagnosed as being malnourished, which is possible, and it's possible that it was all related to this brain tumor that he clearly had that was impairing his stability, and he was with his father for a year while this tumor was growing. I don't think that they had malicious intent.
Neither do I.
And I think that but for their actions, this 19-year-old boy probably would be dead. If they took out the tumor that was the size of a grapefruit, I would say 6 months later or 8 months later, there's a strong probability that would affect the optic nerve, affect the carotid artery, and gone. So although I could understand his annoyance, from the time they went to live with him until his surgery was a month. And I actually don't believe that this father didn't know where he was for a month, because they evidently have a living mother who they're both in touch with. He was moving around, phone disconnected. At the hospital, the mother showed up. She said, I can sign the documents. Well, you know, you're involved in major surgery for a child. Your focus is not on your brother, who did not take care of business for a year. So I'm going to leave that up to a family court judge to determine who should have custody, and I probably guarantee you that custody will remain with his aunt, because that's what Dakota wants. Father may be angry, but that's what's going to happen. I have no doubt that the father loves him. He did not take good care of him for the year.
Sure.
And so I wasn't going to reward that by giving him any money against these people who had nothing but the child's best interests, when for a year he really didn't take care of business with his son. And that's why I didn't hear his case for emotional distress.
Understood. Thank you.
Terry Smith is suing her ex-husband, Tony Smith, for 3 ATVs and a lawnmower.
Court current order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2148, Smith versus Smith.
Thank you. You're welcome. Miss Smith, this used to be your husband. You haven't been married in a long time, but after your divorce, you sort of remained friendly and you had some business transactions together. What kind of business?
I would refer real estate business to him and refer flipping homes and the construction work.
Did you take part in that as well?
I did.
In what year were you divorced?
2015.
So this briefly is what I gather from the complaint and the answer and the counterclaim. At some point, according to you, you purchased 3 ATVs. Those 3 ATVs were originally supposed to be used in business.
We purchased more than 3.
How many did you purchase?
Those were the 3 that were left. It was 14 of them that we had.
And when you purchased those together as part of a business?
No, those were mine. I purchased it. The business.
14.
Business was mine. Yes.
14?
Yes.
You purchased them, you paid for them?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and you can prove that to me?
I can.
Okay. Do you agree with the fact your former wife purchased the 14 ATVs?
Yes, I agree, but it was underneath an LLC that was formed.
I don't care whether it was under an LLC or a little umbrella or a big shoe. She bought the ATVs.
Yes.
So one of the things that's in question is the ATVs now are in your custody?
The remaining ones are in my home, yes.
3?
Yes, ma'am.
And you want them back?
I do.
She bought them. Why doesn't she get them back?
Because, Your Honor, there is an outstanding invoice for work that I have done for her.
What?
It's construction work and other odds and ends that was helping her.
That's not part of your counterclaim as a set-off, sir. That's not what you say at all.
Okay, and also there is a counterclaim.
You have a counterclaim. That has to do with your truck. So there really is no reason that you are holding those ATVs. Are they new?
No, they were demonstrator models. There's 1 new one and 2 demonstrators.
Okay, so within 5 days, you make arrangements to get those, okay? I assume that you have children together?
No.
So I assume that you are 2 civilized people. I don't know whether you need a police officer to accompany you to get those, but within 5 days, make arrangements to pick them up from his house. They're yours.
I will. Thank you.
Are we then finished with your claim?
Now, there's a lawnmower, an electric zero-turn lawnmower. Okay. It's also part of that claim.
Okay. I sort of remember that. Is that an old lawnmower?
No, it was purchased in May of 2021.
And who was it purchased for?
He asked me, since he could not get it on credit, if I would buy it for him, and the next real estate transaction that I referred him, he said when he got paid, he would pay me the $4,800 back.
Okay.
And so when I asked for it, he said he had put it in a separate savings account to save it for me. And I said, well, I don't need you to save me my money.
Got it. So you have the lawnmower?
Yes, ma'am.
You picked that up with the ATVs?
Thank you.
Got it?
Thank you.
Perfect. Now we have to come to your counterclaim. Your counterclaim is sort of interesting and can be, I think, probably equally swiftly disposed of. After your divorce, you needed a truck. You didn't have any money or credit, according to what I've read, and you purchased a truck in your name for him. And the agreement was that you would make the payments on the truck because you couldn't get credit. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
The truck was purchased in what month and year?
August of 2020.
How much did the truck cost?
$58,000, somewhere in there.
And how much of a down payment did you put down?
$500.
Is that right?
Yes.
That's good. You must have had good credit.
I do.
Good. And what were the monthly payments, sir?
900 and I can't remember exactly. It was under $1,000. It was $940 something, I think.
And you paid for the truck the month of August of 2020 and all through 2021. Until when? When was your last payment on the truck that you made, that you can prove to me that you made?
I have all the payments.
Just tell me, when was the last payment you made on the truck?
It was August of this year.
August of 2022.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's what your bank records will indicate, that you made a payment of $900 and some odd, August of 2022. And in what month did your former wife repossess the truck, which was in her name?
It was September 20th.
Now you're going to tell me why you repossessed the truck. Let's talk about the violations. Driving without tags, only 2 months. When we forget or we're traveling and we don't get registrations for our cars, we don't drive those cars. Because if you're driving with expired tags, that's against the law.
Terry Smith claims her ex-husband, Tony Smith, owes for 3 ATVs and a lawnmower. Tony is countersuing for the value of a truck.
Okay, you made a payment of $900 and some odd,
Yes, ma'am.
August of 2022. And in what month did your former wife repossess the truck, which was in her name?
It was September 20th.
Okay, now you're going to tell me why you repossessed the truck.
Yes, that truck's first payment was due on October 30th of 2020. I made the payment on November 28th.
No, I'm not interested in history.
Okay.
I'm interested in, he says that he was making payments on the truck. You say he stopped making payments on the truck, which is why you repossessed it. You didn't want your credit to be at risk.
It was 2 of the first payments that I made, and I said, I'm not doing this again like I did on the last truck where I make every payment. But the insurance, I asked for the insurance to be paid since April of 2020, and I requested this on June the 28th of 2022, and I said, here's the insurance premiums I've paid on the GMC truck since we've had it, and it was $1,596. His reply was, I'm happy to pay the insurance on my truck, but don't just dump 2.5 years on me at a time. I will need to break this up into 3 increments. This was June. I don't have any money. The insurance and taxes, the taxes this year is the first time he's ever paid taxes on the vehicle, and it was 1 year late. He drove on an expired tag for a total year. The reason—
Is that just a second, is that correct?
I'm sorry?
Did you drive on an expired tag
No,
for a
ma'am.
year?
It was only a few months late.
So you drove—
It wasn't an entire year.
How many months?
2 months.
Oh, that's too long.
I agree.
And was your agreement that you would maintain the insurance for the truck as well?
That was something that we discussed, and because of the real reason she actually agreed to purchase the truck, we had a previous truck that was also I was driving, and because of the LLC that the truck was under, it was a very high commercial insurance rate. So she felt that it would benefit her to get another truck and come out from under the commercial rate that she was paying for insurance, and she was going to put it in a group insurance policy.
Where is the truck? Where is the truck? You've had possession of the truck.
That's correct.
So you get all the benefit of the truck, and she gets all the detriment.
I'm just referring to what we
I'm
discussed.
just what I'm not getting from you, sir, is any sense of the whole idea was this is going to be my truck. As soon as I finish making all the payments on the truck is going to be mine, right?
That's correct.
And if you didn't make payments on the truck, absolutely, she has a right to repossess it if that was your agreement. And you acknowledge that that's your agreement, right?
That is the agreement, but I have made every payment, and I have paid all the taxes.
Well, the word paid all the taxes eventually, didn't pay them when due.
That happened once.
Didn't pay them when due, pay them eventually. What about the insurance?
The insurance, I agreed to catch up and pay her back for once she told me what it was.
Okay.
I never received any information about the insurance amount until she sent it all in one.
Okay, she sent it to you in one email. That was in June, and you said I couldn't pay it, and she repossessed the car in September. Between June and September, did you make any insurance payment?
No, I did not.
Why?
It was a lot of things going on at that time that there was money owed to me as well from her. So it was a lot of discussion going back and forth about that.
Well, but one thing is clean. You know about the insurance, and if there's money that she owes you from construction or real estate or whatever it is, you have to put that in compartments. Where is the truck now?
I took the truck back and it is sold.
Did you ever tell him?
He wouldn't talk to me. He hasn't talked to me since May.
So you had the truck for approximately 2 years?
Yes, ma'am.
And how much in total did you pay for the truck?
The exact amount added up was $18,736.
So you paid approximately $9,000 a year, right?
Correct.
Your Honor, we had an agreement of $1,200 a month on the truck to cover the insurance and taxes up front before it was purchased.
That's not true.
Well, if you paid approximately $9,000, Mr. Smith, and you used it for business, correct? That's what you used the truck for. So you paid approximately $750 a month if you paid $9,000 each year for the 2 years, $1,870. You say the payments were $900 a month. That means that there was a shortfall.
Can I bring us? It was more than 2 years. It was August of 2020 until
September.
August of this year.
Well, that's 2 years.
There's also a down payment
of $500. I'm not.
Okay.
So that's $750, sir. I always have a problem with people who are no longer married and no longer happy with each other, where one party has the obligation and has all the liability on a vehicle, including their credit and their insurance, when the other person is being either irresponsible or blinking at certain violations. Let's talk about the violations. Driving without tags, only 2 months. When we forget or we're traveling and we don't get registrations for our cars, we don't drive those cars. Because if you're driving with expired tags, that's against the law.
I would like to point out, if I may, that the bill for that obviously went to her address. It was not given to me. Now, that's not my. I understand that I need to be aware of it, but I never received that bill.
I gave it to him the very month it came in.
Just a second.
That's not true.
Just a second. You're a big boy. You know when your car has to be registered, you have a little yellow tag on the back like everybody else. And insurance, you know, you're supposed to pay insurance. That was your agreement. You were supposed to pay insurance. And you didn't pay insurance. She's going to show me how much was left on the loan and how much she sold the truck for. If she sold the truck for more than was left on the loan, the difference between, if look.
Smith is accusing ex-husband Tony Smith of wrongfully keeping 3 ATVs and a lawnmower. Tony claims Terry owes him for the cost of a truck.
Okay, well, are you working now, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. She sold the truck. How much did you sell it for?
$48,000.
And how much was left on the loan?
48. It was even.
Well, show me.
It was even. Oh.
I'd like to see that.
Ooh.
So $48,000 was, he paid $18,000.
Hang on 1 second, I got it.
Mm-hmm.
Can I submit this to you?
What is that?
Or this, my bank statement showing the payment.
No, you told me. I accepted it.
Okay.
She doesn't dispute it, and I accept it.
I do have a copy of the title here somewhere.
What I'm looking for, Mr. Smith, just so that you know, what I'm having her look for from me, she's going to show me how much was left on the loan and how much she sold the truck for. If she sold the truck for more than was left on the loan, the difference between, you're looking at me, the difference between that belongs to you.
Oh, I see.
Because you paid it, right?
I see. Yes, ma'am.
Got it? That fair? Did she tell you that she sold the truck?
No, ma'am.
He went and bought a truck 2 days later, so he was able to buy a truck.
Okay.
I mean,
would you find those papers for me while you're looking for those papers for me? Mr. Smith, did you buy another truck?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Did you put a down payment on it?
Yes, ma'am.
And you own it now?
Yes, ma'am.
And you're driving it now?
That's correct.
What would you do with a second truck?
Well, I was forced to buy one because I
understand you were. I understand you were forced to buy one, sir. But if you had the truck and you weren't going to use 2 trucks, you would sell this truck for whatever amount you sold it for, and if there was any overage, you'd get to.
I offered to purchase the truck from her. In fact, she understood that I was planning to purchase the truck from her.
Don't tell me what she understood. Right now, you don't need a truck, and I'm going to find out whether or not she has to give you any money as a result of what she sold the truck
This
for?
bill of sale does not have the amount on it. I didn't realize that. I'll have to get that from.
Well,
from
this is
where
the
I
time
sold
to get it.
I'm sorry, I did not realize it didn't have it on there.
Okay. Oh, you sold it to a company?
I did.
Oh, okay. Not to a private party?
No.
Is that the same company that you purchased it from?
No, I purchased it from a different dealership.
Okay. Do you have the exact amount that the loan, the extant loan was?
The original loan was 60.
No.
I'm sorry. The exit loan?
Yeah, the exit.
It was between 48 and 49,000, give or take. Yeah, hang on.
And the truck was, and the truck
I have it.
was purchased for 56, so that amounts for his payments plus interest.
I have it. That's the difference of what they gave me. I originally put the down payment on that truck as well. He did not.
That doesn't matter.
Yeah, that was the difference they gave me in the sale.
Okay, so this is the difference.
Yes.
Between what was on the loan.
Exactly.
Between what was on the loan.
Exactly.
And this. Okay, so the excess, sir, was $2,225. She put in the deposit for the truck when it was originally purchased of $500?
She did not.
Yes.
Who did?
I did, and I have a copy. I have that in this record right here.
Show me.
We added tires. We added all kinds of extra
I don't
stuff
care.
and
I
everything
don't
to it. and
I don't
I paid for that.
I don't
as well.
care. I don't care.
Yeah.
This is actually.
Just show me.
It's on my phone. Can I show it? Can I?
From 2020?
Yes, what had happened, the amount actually came off of this statement copy.
Let me see.
Can I submit this to you where I made the 2 payments on the truck when he first started? I made the very second payment and the 4th payment on that truck because he wouldn't make it. I also notified him on June the 20th that he had 30 days to get the truck in his name, and I never heard anything.
You can't notify him within 30 days to get it in his name. That's not the agreement. Let me see.
Yeah. There's this.
It's in yellow.
Yep. Purchased authorized August 22nd, and this is 2020 for $500. Okay, so the difference of $500 that came out of your account brings the total excess that she received $1,725. She's coming to pick up her lawnmower within 5 days and her 3 ATVs. At the same time, she's going to give you $1,725, which is the difference between what was owed on the truck and the profit that was made that she didn't pay for. We're finished here. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
I think it was fair.
Well, it was a little less than I thought I was going to get back from it, and there's a lot more to the story that obviously I couldn't get in.
Well, I mean, I had the truth, so.
She understands why that is because there's an outstanding invoice from me for work that I've done that she's refusing to pay for.
I have supported him since 2003.
Construction work, I did a lot of planning and helping her with her current home that she's living in.
It is just one thing after another, and I could never owe him one dime.
I mean, everything was fine between us.
Has trauma bonded me and manipulated me and gaslit me for all these years and kept me around just in case other relationships didn't work out.
Until she found out I was seeing someone else.
No. I had been asking for everything of mine that he kept and held hostage for a long time before that, but he's probably had many more before that. I just didn't know about them.
But I'm happy.
I was thinking he was making me think that we were reconciling while he was using me.
I don't see us talking anymore.
The bank is finally closed, and the bad bargain has just been a nightmare. It's been hundreds of bad bargains.
No more business ventures.
You see, it's always a mistake, unless you're married, to co-sign a loan for anybody, a boyfriend, a somebody.
An ex-husband.
Especially an ex-husband.
Yeah. Because I think what you said was true. There's always one person that gets no benefit and gets slighted and has their name on the line for their credit for future purchases that they want to make, and the guy who gets to drive the truck.
And the guy gets to drive the truck. Of course, he says that the reason she got all hot and bothered is because he has a girlfriend now. I would have felt a little more sympathy towards it.
Wait a minute.